Hey everyone, and welcome to Eternal Mooncast special program Bishoujo Senshi Slumber Party. We're on the current adventure of reviewing the Sailor Moon Pioneer dub. This will be the discussion portion for episodes 66 through 70. We'll talk about what worked, what didn't, and how we think these episodes could have been even better.
Now, Sailor Moon has a long and rich history, but have you seen everything? I'm Relia, and these are my friends Monica and Michi. We are three lifelong Sailor Moon fans who dove headfirst into the fandom and have stayed there ever since. We love being part of the amazing fan community surrounding such a genre-defining series. If you've been watching and you'd like to jump to a particular episode, timestamps will be in the description below.
Now, we know some of you may not have seen the Pioneer dub. In fact, these were known as the Lost episodes. If you want to watch along with us and enjoy our reactions, join our Patreon and get in on the fun. It's free. Unless you'd like to get our reactions 1 week early, and then it's $1 whole. Please enjoy. The link is in the description below.
All right, so let's delve into discussing episodes 66 through 70. Monica and I have also watched them both in Japanese and in English to try and give a little more commentary about them. So the Japanese episode numbers, if you're following along with that as well, are going to be episodes 73 through 77.
All right, and we'll be summarizing each episode, talking about them, and sharing our thoughts with you. We're excited to share some of our favorite moments, what we loved, and everything else in between. So go ahead and join that chat or post in the comments and let us know what you think about each episode too.
We want to thank our citizen of the Mooniverse on Patreon and Sailor Denzel, and thank you to our subscribers on Twitch. You help make the Mooney magic. A reminder that this is a monthly show and these are all just our personal opinions. We in no way represent Toei, Viz, or the same intellectual property in any way.
All right, so let's get into it. And we've delved a little bit into our format. We decided we really wanted to get more juicy into each of these episodes. Once we get through the summary of each episode, you'll notice that we're really trying to dig into all the different aspects and discuss just how strong or how weak an individual episode is and what stands out about that, and maybe how we can fix it. Hopefully, you guys are going to enjoy this new format. We really think that it will help us bring the best of our best discussion-wise to you. So let's talk about episode 66. Now, the Pioneer title for this is Rubeus Evens the Score. Monica, what's our Japanese title?
Japanese episode 73 is titled A UFO Appears. The Sailor Soldiers Are Abducted. As usual, the Japanese title giving away the entire plot.
Just telling you exactly what's going to happen.
Yep, that's what happens in this episode.
This is an interesting one. I do think it's worth noting that as far as when these episodes aired in North America, there was about a 2-year break between when the original Deep Dub episodes aired and when we finally managed to save our soldiers through the Save Our Soldiers campaign and convince them to finish dubbing the rest of this season and continue to dub further seasons for us. There are some differences. The voice actor for Sailor Mars is a different voice actor. And then there's slight differences in the handling of these versus the Deke episodes experientially. But we'll try to dig into some of that as we go through. But the first place where that shows up is, I think, in the episode titles. If you've watched any of our previous episodes, you'll know we absolutely love the episode titles that Deke comes up with. They're very puntastic, they're very punchy, they're very fun. And the Pioneer titles so far have been much more straightforward. They're not inaccurate to a thing that's going to happen, but they don't have that same amount of fun to them.
They're more like a normal episode title.
They're like what happened to McDonald's when they got rid of all the happy-go-lucky play places and turned them into realistic-looking restaurants.
Yeah, where they're like, McDonald's is business now. And you're like, but McDonald's was the place you went to sit on a chair that looked like a burger.
Exactly. That feels like that transition. All right, so where we pick up here is, and there's continuity to these episodes with what has happened plot-wise before it. So as we come into the episode, Rini is right now reflecting on the fact that she's just discovered the identities of the Sailor Scouts in the previous episode. So she's been contemplating that. Meanwhile, with Rubeus, he's contemplating the prospect of Apps actually doing some work for once because he's lost all of his underlings. And suddenly we get the appearance of new villain Esmeralda, or maybe Emerald in Pioneer, who shows up literally just to throw shade at him, tell him he has until tomorrow to accomplish something, or else she will be taking over and he's going to be out. So obviously that lights a slight fire under his ass. We go back to Rini, and she's now plotting to yet again steal the silver crystal to solve all of her problems. rather like a gambling addict throwing good money after bad. Surely this time, if I steal the Sailor Crystal, it'll fix all the other times that was a problem. The squad are also trying to do things on their end. And so right now what they're trying to do is like discuss how they're going to help and protect Rini, as they can tell that shit keeps getting worse for her. But Rini, who is meanwhile like in a process of bonding over making pancakes with Kuko Mama, has been projecting all these negative motives onto Serena. She goes up to Serena's room and notices that Serena left her brooch behind, so she takes it. Serena gets home, discovers that the brooch is missing, instantly assumes that Rini took it and goes looking for it and for Rini, and messages the other girls. They all go looking with her. Rini, now having stolen the silver crystal, attempts to again go back to the future. Once again, it fails, but her doing so causes Rubeus to be able to find her. But fortunately, the squad also finds them. They manage to stop Rubeus from killing Rini, obviously. Rini reveals to them that she knows their identities, and she claims that they must have only saved her in order to reclaim the brooch, and that Serena obviously doesn't deserve the brooch, she thinks. Rini then flees to Darian's place, and he takes care of her and tries to get her opened up to him by using like a little hand puppet of Tuxedo Mask. It's very cute. Serena shows up to look for Rini. Rini transforms the Luna Ball into a parachute and jumps down from his high-rise balcony to the ground, then attempts to go back to the future again. She fails again. Rubeus shows up again, this time with his entire gigantic sparkly UFO, but so do all of the Inner Scouts who attack him. He starts smashing them with these gravity beams from the UFO, and in order to fight back and get enough strength to get Rini free, they use Sailor Planet power, even though it's weaker because they don't have Sailor Moon to contribute because she still can't transform. She doesn't have her brooch. Tuxedo Mask manages to pull Rini free, but when he does, the inners then get sucked up into the spaceship with a tractor beam, and the episode actually ends on a huge cliffhanger like that.
Done.
Yeah.
I know that these were called the lost episodes, but I think I'm just young enough to have gotten into Sailor Moon, watching it before school after the Save Our Sailors drive happened. Like I remember seeing on it online, but I think those were just old websites from that. Because it had to have been like a year or two before then, because I remember watching these episodes in particular before school. This was a nostalgia trip for me.
Whereas I didn't. Like, I had been watching during the original run and then was part of the Save Our Sailors campaign. And so these, as opposed to the original run, which I saw about 5 million times, these episodes I've seen far less often.
And I don't remember when that was.
I want to say I was in college when these came out, when the lost episodes aired.
I can't
I'm sure we
remember.
could
It was like,
discover
I wanted
it
to ask
using
you
the
questions
internet.
about like how far apart us going to college are from each other, but I didn't want to identify.
Yeah, we'll look up when we're on our break or something when the airing was of these episodes.
Yeah, I would have been watching these episodes in 1999, which would have been my first year of high school.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Would
I
have
was-
been, yeah.
Yeah, and I was still in single digits.
I'm in high school at that time.
Yeah, I think we would have been in high school at the same time for a year or two.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of friends your age when I was in high school who also like Sailor Moon, and I believe that they were also part of the Save Our Sailors campaign. And then they got me into watching it regularly, and I was starting to watch it regularly in like my freshman year. That would have been 1999, which would have been these episodes on TV before school. Because I definitely remember sitting there ironing my little Catholic school uniform while watching these episodes in particular. So we always like to write down some funny stuff that happens, like things we said out loud or other things we got excited about. So the scroll is back?
Yes. The scroll is back. The scroll is back. Any fans of Star Wars who maybe haven't watched these episodes in a while, there's a crawl in the beginning of the original Deke opening sequence, and they've brought that section back for the lost episodes, and we were delighted by that.
We talked about the episode titles, but there's also a new font. We called that out.
Yes.
I listed notes there was a real eat your hamburgers Apollo moment happening, but then it turns out I was just wrong. They are like, there's a moment where they're like Makoto's cookies, and they don't look like a chocolate chip cookie or anything. But then we watched the subtitled version, and it is in fact they were cookies. She did
Cookies,
cookies.
yes.
It was not an eat your hamburgers Apollo moment.
Yeah, no.
What is my mic doing?
successfully cookies. And then, as noted, they are very much pancakes that are made and eaten in this episode. You can tell because they look like pancakes. And so that is correct both in Pioneer and in the Japanese version.
Pancakes, turns out that's an international food, thus the
Yeah.
International House of. Please do watch our Patreon episode because there's a lot of Michi being a real big hater about Chibi Moon.
I hate her. I can't stand her in these episodes. Oh my God, this child.
When we were watching with Julia, she was sitting on the couch with me, and then Esmeralda comes on screen, and she was like, "Is that Esmeralda?" And I was like, "Yes." She was like, "But yes, bitch."
I feel that it is the right reaction. Esmeralda is one of those characters who, like, I like, she was fine for me in the original run, but, like, the more I've been exposed to her and the more, like, comedic elements that she so adds to this entire season, I'm just like, "Fuck, yes, you know what? Esmeralda is actually a whole ass delight." She's a delight of a character.
Yeah, she's good. Lady Chapel cosplay asks us how we all are.
Oh, we're doing
I'm
good.
doing
Oh,
okay.
doing good, doing good. Yay. I
No,
hope you
excited
guys are
for this-
doing well as well.
Yeah, and please keep the questions coming tonight. We always love interacting with you, y'all.
We have plenty to discuss, so jump in.
Yeah,
Share your
absolutely.
opinion.
We're
We
gonna-
want to talk.
Okay.
We was going to suggest that we talk about animation quality, good and or bad.
Yeah, so we're starting off, I think we're going to start off with just generally discussing what things we thought worked in each of
Okay.
these categories. So we're starting off positive. We're doing the glow half of glows and grows. Yeah, we'll talk about what worked here, and let's start with the animation quality. So my notes about the animation quality was one thing that I thought was really interesting, and you don't necessarily always see this in an episodic show like Sailor Moon, where they're doing a lot of visual symbolism. Like, sometimes they certainly will, but sometimes they don't go out of their way to do that. And one thing that you will notice in this episode is that there is a heavy falling leaf motif. Something like that's not accidental. Anytime something is animated, it means that was a choice that was made. Someone went out of their way to decide that they wanted there to be falling leaves in this part of the episode. And so that was a choice that was made. And so anytime you see like symbolism like that, I tend to think to myself, okay, what are we exploring here? What's the mood that this is setting? What does this represent in some character's arc? When you are seeing falling leaves as an example of change and transition, who are the characters who are going through change? And I think it's in connection with Rini in these cases. And she's the character where you tend to see in this episode, falling leaves are going by in her scenes. So I thought it was interesting. And I love anytime I see something like that. Another thing that I thought was good on an animation quality aspect was the first big moment where you see the Black Moon UFO descending onto Tokyo. It's a really cool visual. I think it's the coolest that the UFO has ever looked because it's lit up. There are different colored lights going. It looks very intimidating and very otherworldly descending on Earth like that. And I think it's very effective as a visual. And then oh, go ahead.
We were watching that on my big TV, and it like you were watching it on your computer because I was streaming it to you, but like we were watching it on my big TV, and it's really impressive on the bigger screen.
Yeah, it looks real cool.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. The third thing I liked animation quality wise was when they do Sailor Planet Power with the four inners, it's a direct visual callback to previous scenes where we've seen in the future the four inners are actively upholding a shield around Crystal Tokyo, using their powers at all times. And so it was nice to see that mirrored in the past of them doing that same thing. Those were the things I liked animation quality wise.
yeah. I thought the animation in this was generally on the good side. We will have other notes, but I think overall,
we have. Yeah, I disagreed overall about this episode, but
What theme did we think this was?
like,
Like,
who is this?
I
disagree elsewhere. Oh, I do disagree elsewhere. I'm like, it's Yankee, except for the cool spaceship.
yeah, so I think this looks like one of the more basic teams that really stick to the early first season animation structure and character models, but with wonkier eyes. Like, we might end up calling this team the Wonky Eyes team, because I think that's what's going to end up defining their visual traits is that you keep seeing some wonky eyes.
Okay.
Not the best team. I picked out only the good points for my
Right.
positive sections.
I completely got this confused with a different episode. So
Yeah.
my only note under the animation quality is just like shout out to their squished faces and the gravity beam scene.
I
Clearly
completely
in the
agree with what
moment,
you were saying.
clearly in the moment, I was also not very impressed. That is my
Your
note was not-
positive was your
my
good piece.
positive. I thought that was funny. Like
No, and for me, my noteworthy was just Chibiusa going home will always be cool animation.
oh yeah, when she
I agree. I
tries to
agree.
open their time portal. Yeah,
Oh,
that's also very
it's
Yeah, the
peak
float,
magical girl.
shower all around her, where it does feel like the world is distorting. Yeah, I do enjoy that.
Plot
All right,
structure.
yeah, plot structure. Things that are positive about plot structure. I noted this episode is coherent, even in the Pioneer dub. It has a pretty clear through line and stakes. You can understand what's happening at all times in this episode. It's not weird and confusing. It's a straightforward episode that moves from A to B. I also noted, I think the moment where they persevere and they use Sailor Planet power is a strong high point. Oh, these are Monica's notes.
Those are my notes.
Yeah. No, my bad. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I'm top of 4, so I was like, I must have said that. That makes sense.
No,
I do have a similar note, but that's okay.
mean-
Yeah, go for it.
No, you just said it. I agree. I think this episode is really coherent, even in the Pioneer dub. It does, in fact, have a pretty clear through line and stakes. It's the Pioneer dub did not chop it all up or cut weird parts. Like they did cut. I think they do cut a little bit of stuff, but they don't cut it to the point where it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
I also will make a note for this whole discussion that as we were watching in Japanese, a lot of the stuff that we had a problem with, the Japanese version doesn't do
Yeah.
or does less of.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the moment in which they persevere and use Sailor Planet power is a high point, and it's a strong reuse of a previously established using an ability at a critical time. Because I'm pretty sure they also, it was a full team transformation. Never mind. It was like, there's another place where they use something where the whole team gets together to do something, and you're like, why are you doing this now? What?
Yeah.
Why does it matter that you're rolling out one of your big guns? Like,
Yes.
Sailor Planet power is a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of the strongest things in their arsenal. And so, like any good superhero story, when you establish exceptionally powerful abilities, you have to roll them out when they make sense and not constantly escalate the stakes pointlessly so that they can continue to use their cool toys. And good authors don't do that.
I think following up on that point, I think that the reason that is important to use and to show in this episode was because the key plot conceit of this episode is that Sailor Moon does not have her transformation brooch. And so everything that's happening is happening because she can't join in. So in this moment, they try to use Sailor Planet power, but they know that they're down not just one team member, but their strongest team member. But they do it anyway, which gives you a character insight of how they're doing this, even knowing that they're not at full strength, just to get what they can out of it. And how, because they weren't at full strength, there were consequences. They got kidnapped. So I think it was a specific choice to have that happen in this episode. And that as a choice works. So yeah, I thought that was a good note on your part. Yep. So actual notes from me, an actual note that I wrote, not that Monica wrote and I claimed for myself, is I think this works and has a good flow. You get the establishing character moments of Rini going through emotional tumult, and then the way that her acting on her feelings leads to these big consequences. So you have this structure of like, she's having all these emotions, she acts on them in a very immature way, and it causes massive problems. That's the arc, that's the structure. It functions very well.
I just said Rubeus finally does something.
It's true. And again, only because 1, he has no underlings left to do things for him, and 2, he has until tomorrow to finally do something. So these are the lengths you have to go to get a man to get off his ass and do something in Sailor Moon.
Yeah, like it's a real tie for who annoys me more, Chibiusa or Rubeus, like for completely different reasons, but just both of them are on my nerves.
Sailor Denzel, that's actually a fantastic question because this is something I wanted to bring up, which is Sailor Denzel asks, how do y'all feel about the girls getting kidnapped here as opposed to the manga where they each get kidnapped separately? So I did want to mention that because this is in its way an echo of the manga storyline in which 3 out of the 4 girls get kidnapped. Sailor Venus never gets kidnapped, which I always thought made for such an interesting choice in the manga. You expect sometimes in storytelling wise that everyone will have the exact same episode for each of the 4 inners. Like, oh, if it happened to Jupiter, then next it'll happen to Mercury, then next it'll happen to Mars, and then next it'll happen to Venus. It does not, in fact, happen to Venus. She never gets kidnapped. But there is that parallel in terms of a decision to have the girls be kidnapped and them have to go after them, and the emotional tumult of that causes this drama in their lives. I think that it's everything in the manga has higher stakes and is more pivotal because less happens in the manga. And so it feels less pivotal to have the girls be kidnapped here and for basically 1.5 episodes, because we are only partway through the season and it's only for 1.5 episodes and they get them back right away. Whereas in the manga, it's a big deal. That's when you're at the end game of the storyline. So it feels very different to me.
And then Lady Chapel Cosplay comes in asking, how did y'all feel about the script dub for episode 66 compared to the manga?
Does anyone else want to say that? Yeah, go ahead.
So
I don't wanna take all the
personally, I like the group kidnapping just because I love seeing Sailor Planet Power. I'm just a hoe for Sailor Planet Power. So like any excuse where I'm like, ooh, they got to do it. Sorry, gonna go with that option.
I'm also like the manga guy here, and I'm like, oh, I haven't read the second arc in so long. But sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna reread it, and I'm like, I'm gonna reread the whole thing, and I just reread Infinity in the stores a bunch of times. Man, we compared with the Japanese, but I haven't read the second arc in quite some time. I should reread. That's mostly just being like, yeah, you're right. I should just reread the whole thing from beginning to end again. Anyone want to do a book club where we reread the Sailor Moon manga from beginning to end?
Absolutely. I reread it last year. Let's reread it this year. I would love to.
I've had some friends who like reread all of the Lord of the Rings like as a yearly thing, and I'm like, I think I should just do that with the Sailor Moon manga. That would be
Maybe we'll do it on our
let's do it.
Discord.
No, maybe
Okay.
on the Discord. That would be a fun community.
all right.
Yeah.
Sound
love
off in
that.
the comments if you would join our read through the Sailor Moon manga book club.
Use your cell phone to take pictures of particular frames that you thought were funny or goofy or like super scary monsters drawn by Takeuchi, because she draws super scary monsters. It's really
She
cool.
just really wanted to make a horror comic really badly.
comic.
Yep. Yeah. Also, there's a really good fan translation that's available for free. So if you can't afford to buy all of it or don't have access to it, there is a free version out there that I think is excellent, actually, which has not been taken down. So it's still out there.
Yeah.
So like it was fan translated some time ago, and it's probably one of my favorite translations. So like I'll have to grab a link to Miss Dreams. It's Miss Dreams.
Yeah.
Translation.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And it's great. Like I thoroughly enjoy all of the official translations too, but if you would prefer an unofficial translation, I highly recommend hers.
Yeah, it sounds like you're starting a Sailor Moon manga book club.
I am now.
Love it.
I'll make a channel on our Discord just for it.
Okay.
So let's talk about positive things in characterization.
We love Emerald, or as
Emerald.
so legend, her fucking laugh.
Emerald.
And frankly, I like her pioneer dub voice.
Yes, I do too. I think it's fantastic.
So
I
good.
also love that she shows up. Her first appearance, she shows up, really says, "You're fired, bitch. You've done fuck all."
And she's not wrong. She's not wrong.
Completely correct. She's not going to do a whole lot either, but she's completely correct.
No, and I just love that someone finally put Rubeus in his place and she did it fabulously.
It's so satisfying.
I have a note that just says, are we going to talk about the extent of Chibiusa's parental trauma on both ends, or... Which I left under the positive note, which maybe shouldn't be there, but sorry.
No, I don't think that's unpositive, because that is what's underpinning this arc of episodes is her parental trauma. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I like when they do hint into that.
Yeah. Which sort of feeds into my big long note here, which is that like Chibiusa is fucking annoying. That's the cornerstone of her characterization. Especially in the classic 90s sub, they really were like, this kid's a shithead. You're going to know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I find her behavior in this interesting from a character perspective. I want to, just to be clear, I was as annoyed as Michi while watching this. But
same.
With my character creation, author hat on, I do think it's interesting the way she is portrayed. Because she's like, Sailor Musagi couldn't possibly be Sailor Moon for all these really stretched reasons that I'm going to say throughout this entire episode, but that's a very little kid attitude to have. part of what makes her character compelling, tragic, and terrifying is that she's been 8 for 900 years. And so she's like experienced in existing because she's 900 years old, but she's permanently 8. Like, so she's both had a lot of life experience and is still a child, almost like a vampire character in an interesting way. And so, like, she chooses to reject reality because of her intense feelings. She refuses to believe Usagi is Sailor Moon. She's being a little shit to all the Senshi because she knows who they really are. And, like, there's a lot to unpack here, but it says a ton about her trauma and who she is as a person and her weird little vampire state of being. Like, I have a note here that's basically just, it reflects a lot on the underrated aspect of her character that she's simultaneously ancient and a small child.
Yep.
And she is also doing a crazy amount of mental gymnastics and stretching to hate Usagi, though. Like, she's both behaving like a child and also being like, you're pushing it a little bit, kid. I think that's your note in the pink there, Jane.
I remember this feeling. I genuinely remember why I hate her. She's a brat that projects all of her feelings onto her mother, or to AKA Usagi. I see no redemption in her.
And you were like, you were watching this, writing those notes, just like, fuck this kid.
You were fuming.
It's like, genuinely though, since I was little, I have hated her. Like, I don't know what it is. She just somehow, like, as Sailor Denzel said, director note, make Rini more annoying.
That does seem to be what they decided to go with in the dub.
Yep, and Lady Chapel Cosplay asks, in the Pioneer dub, who's your favorite voice?
Oh, it's still Jupiter. Yeah. It's still going to be Jupiter for me.
Yeah, it's still Susan Roman, right? That's hard to beat. But also, we really like all the villain voices so far.
Yes, the villain voices are absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The voice casting in DCAN and Pioneer is so incredibly good. And I think it's worth noting that, so the recast voice for Sailor Mars, they chose to recast a performer who does actually sound quite a bit like the previous voice for Sailor Mars and is clearly doing an effort to give a continuity between the two voices to emulate the lilting dialogue structure that she has and make it sound continuous. I really appreciate her work to accomplish that. So, Monica, this next note is you.
We all had this moment where Mamoru cheers up with a little tuxedo mask doll, and everyone was just like, oh.
It is genuinely cute. It's the most fatherly thing he's ever done. It's really sweet. It shows an awareness that sometimes allowing a child to have a conversation with a doll is easier than a child directly have a conversation with you, even though they know the doll is you. The tuxedo mask doll is very cute. It gives her a rose. In the Japanese version, he even does a little voice. It's genuinely so adorable. It was very sweet. Okay, so my note on characterization here is I felt that this was a very coherent, if dislikable, characterization for Rini. She is hands down incredibly frustrating in this episode, but the psychological through line for me felt extremely pointed, extremely evident. So it's like time and again, she's very much trying to justify her own bad decisions, stealing the silver crystal a second time, by projecting her parental disrespect onto Serena instead, and repeatedly trying to get other characters to join her in playing down Serena's positive traits or directly slandering her. She does this when she's talking with the Kuko Mama. She does this again when she's talking with the other girls. She keeps trying to get them to jump on the train of talking about how unworthy Serena is, what a bad teammate she is, what a bad daughter she is. All of these things she's trying to project her own feelings of guilt into, instead feelings of I don't have to feel guilty because Serena isn't worthy of respect and positive treatment, basically. She's like just trying so hard to live in denial, and it's obviously getting her in hotter and hotter water, which I thought was a really strongly played out character concept. Like, again, she is a little shit in this episode. You do not like her as a person in her behavior in this episode. Like, but I think you're very much not supposed to. And they chose a very specific way to go about that for me felt very successful in what it set out to do.
Excellent. Do we want to move on to how this episode fits into the ongoing story?
Yes.
Because this is a topic we're going to be adding to our discussion. Also, Lady Chapel Cosplay asks, if we had to direct the episode in Pioneer dub, is there one scene we would like to redo? And turns out there's a whole section where we're going to talk about exactly that. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Read our mind.
Yeah. This episode introduces Emerald, or Esmeralda in Japanese, as a brand new antagonist and announces Rubeus' eventual downfall. Prince Diamond is also mentioned. In Japanese, there's a lot more emphasis on Rubeus having specifically displeased Prince Diamond. I'm pretty sure that Emerald in English is just, you fuck, get out of here. Like, she's like, you suck, and then Oju laughs away. Like, that's what they extended their conversation. In Japanese, she's very clear that he has let Prince Diamond down, which I like. She also is like, you've made our gentle prince upset. My note just says LMAO girl.
Gentleman.
Yeah. I also always like it when Chibi Moon attempts to fuck around with her one time key, her exactly one time key. And I think while we were reacting, I commented that Chibiusa doesn't like say the incantation when she tries to use the key in the Pioneer dub. She just was like, please take me home.
Yep.
Yeah. Good voice. Thank you. We're gonna put it up there with my Artemis boy.
Yeah. It's my favorite though.
But in Japanese, that's not the case. She does, in fact, say the whole incantation that's necessary to open the time gate, and it just simply fails, which I think is a stronger moment. Like the fact that they chose not to give her this particular activation incantation to use the time key makes it come across as mundane, or more mundane than it is. Like, she literally has a key to the gate of time. It's a significant magical item. And when she has to use like a spell to use it, you get the sense that it's this like significant magical item that has to be like, you have to use this particular incantation to cause this magic to happen. It opens the portal, whatever. And then when she fails, you're like, oh, this is serious business.
Yep.
And the tone, it changes the tone from her like begging the cosmos to let her out. Like, and of course it doesn't work. She just yelled, please, at the sky, right?
Yep.
It changes the way that it changes the context of her failure for me.
Agreed.
But that is very relevant to the ongoing story.
Yeah, that makes that scene different.
Also, I called out there's a cutaway in the Pioneer dub where there's like a window wipe to a new scene, and we thought maybe something had been cut there. And it's actually literally the same in Japanese, including Mako and Mina having that, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Moment.
Go
It's
figure.
literally the same. And the Japanese just like pans over to the building that the next scene is in, as opposed to doing that weird cutaway wipe. They literally added a cutaway wipe
For no reason. Yep.
None was
There was already a
maybe
wipe
to
there.
shave off a couple minutes from the episode, like seconds from the episode.
Pioneer.
Yeah.
Yep.
The transitions in the Japanese animation are all pretty smooth and seamless. So it just flows from one scene to the next pretty naturally without the weird like window wipe. I don't know why they did that. That was just a thing that they added for no reason.
Yep. Who knows? Relevance to the ongoing story, my note was this was a huge episode both for Rubeus' storyline progression, because he's finally in big trouble, and for Rini's trajectory towards doom. The scouts get kidnapped, lots happened here. This was a plot integral episode. Like, I think it's pretty clear why this episode was relevant.
Question, do we recommend this episode?
Yeah, I like it. I think if you're going to do
Yeah.
a fillerless watch, this is one of the ones you need to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
It's actually really plot important.
Yep. So then we ask ourselves, was it exciting and engaging even if it wasn't relevant or high quality?
Yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. Even if Chibi Moon sucks, like despite her being a little real turd the entire time, a little fungus the entire time, this is a strong episode.
And Darian's a close second, fungus.
Yeah. I said, plot in general was fully engaging here. Other than that weird clock cutaway scene, everything that happened in this episode felt both important and interesting to watch.
Yep.
Standout moment in this episode.
Oh, that's you.
Michi, that's you.
Oh, that's me, because I was on fire when I came to this section.
Yeah, you were on it.
There's certain things that my humor comes out in the Google Doc, and like it's apparent in watching it. But Darian doesn't call Usagi when he finds Rini.
Don't need to let her know. Probably not worried or anything.
Finds small child in front for like not at home in bed where she belongs. Oh, this is great. At least call Usagi's mom. You know what I mean?
He doesn't call anybody. He's just like
no one. Calls no one. Don't worry about it.
No, at least call Usagi's mom. That woman was worried. And the classic you dismissed her moment.
That is very
The
funny.
parachute moment. Yes, this is literally a child in a parachute parachuting off of a balcony to run away from her problems. It is iconically hilarious.
Yeah, and then Usagi. This is Serena. This is actually in the Pioneer dub because that moment is not the same in Japanese. Like, he doesn't have that very funny. You just missed her. Like, it's such a good,
So
it's
funny.
so funny. It's such
So
a good
funny.
localization. There's different title translations. Yes, they have two completely different titles.
Yep.
Do you want to put that comment from Lady Chapel Cosplay up real quick?
Yeah.
We can say them again if you would like to hear them, but they have two completely different titles.
Yeah, but so the Pioneer one was Rubeus Evens the Score.
Yeah, and the Japanese title is A UFO Appears! Exclamation point. The sailor soldiers are abducted! Exclamation point.
All right, so what were our favorite parts of this episode, Michi?
Sailor Denzel, real quick, parachuting out of a building. She's definitely Usagi's child. My favorite things was the character outfits, like especially Emerald. Like Emerald was working it.
I mean, that girl is serving at all times.
If
At all
Cassie is not Fran Fine, then Emerald is Fran Fine with the style.
Yeah. So I believe your next note here says,
Ooh.
and co-sign this because there is a line in when they're confronting Rubeus when one of them yells out, "Back off, Rube!" And it was hilarious. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Like, for some reason, the three of us, like, broke out cackling. Like, we were just laughing hysterically.
It was phenomenal. Favorite character of the episode?
Serena's mom is so sweet.
Yeah, the pancake scene was really cute with the two of them and with her talking about how she likes to make food for her children and how much she appreciates them.
Yeah, she's a standout for sure.
My favorite character of this episode was Puppet Tuxedo Mask. He is the best version of Tuxedo Mask we've ever had.
Yeah,
He said great things about Sailor Moon. He said she was the strongest ever. So Puppet Tuxedo Mask was for me.
I can't think of a character who I like more than either Ikuko being real lovely through this whole thing and Puppet Tuxedo Mask, except perhaps Emerald herself.
Yeah. She was
Emerald was beautiful. Just like, yes.
All right, so let's talk about things in this episode that we think didn't work. So our first section is, again, animation quality. My comment here just says bad. There was bad animation quality in this episode.
Yeah, it is skanky, except the thick-ass spaceship.
Fair. Yep.
But it looked frozen in parts.
Oh, yeah, where there's not a lot of frames.
Yeah.
Especially that Serena. When Lady Chapel Cosplay asked what part you would redo, it would be the scene where they're doing and it's like Terry Hawks works her ass off to make that sound good.
She does. She always does.
But put that.
For sure. All right, worst part of the episode, Michi?
Chibiusa and Darien.
For me, it's
they
also
were rough here.
Being a huge shitbag.
Being the biggest shitbag on it.
And I noted that, like, when I was a kid watching this before school ironing my uniform, I couldn't fucking stand her in these episodes because she frustrated me so much. And I still don't like her. But now I have a more nuanced approach as an adult, and this is also what happens when you get an English degree.
I noted that for me, the worst part in this episode was that some of the early sound editing in the episode was very janky. Serena has a line that goes something like, "Serena can't be," and then there's like a 45-second pause of different clips, and then she goes, "Sailor Moon?" Like, they just broke up the sentence for 45 fucking seconds. It did not feel like natural line delivery at all. They improved things further on into the episode, but mainly that's not because the sound editing itself is good or the scripting is good, but because the VAs by now are so experienced at finding ways to make the janky scripts sound as organic as possible. The VAs work hard to make this sound good, and they're the reason that it does.
Agreed.
So let's talk about something it could have done entirely without.
Chibiusa projecting.
I hard agree with the above.
Yeah. I felt like the scene with Rubeus, there was a scene with Rubeus and Wiseman where Wiseman shows up to be like, "Oh, great news, Chibiusa is going to be in such and such place at such and such time." And I felt like that actually only further made Rubeus look completely useless. He's never had a single plan or proactive effort to do anything. And having Wiseman once again give him all the instructions of what to do just further makes him feel like the laziest villain ever.
We ranked him below Jadeite on the list of the worst villains, putting him firmly at the bottom of the list.
The bottom. He's
The worst guy, the only guy you could possibly put below shading.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So now the big sum up of how we felt about this episode. What would make it better? How would we fix this episode? For me, I felt like this would have been a good opportunity to show Rubeus actually being menacing by making him feel like a villain that had any degree of agency. Despite clearly being like physically powerful, he has such a passive approach to his entire mission that for me, it makes him so fall flat as a villain. He never feels threatening to me. I would have liked to see more of a Coonslight level degree of, based on what I've been observing about Rini, she will appear in such and such a place planning, as opposed to just Wise Man told him what was going to happen and he showed up and like went, oh, I'm going to kill you now. That was my improvement, was have him actually put in any effort to develop a cunning plan.
So I was clearly feeling my feelings when I wrote this. Just to be clear, Sandy Fox, if you ever end up hearing any of this or any other Chibiusa voice actor, I love you all. You voice actors are great.
The voice actor surely knows the character's a little shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I said Chibiusa not being a pain in the ass. She completely starts the problems by stealing the locket that projects like a motherfucker about Usagi. I would have liked the story a lot more if she just stolen it and not done the projecting.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't argue with that, really. I think the episode is like generally pretty good, but there's places where it could be a lot tighter. There's a lot of kind of hijinks in the middle that don't really need to be there. The yeah, sure, you just missed her moment is really funny. It's funny as fuck, but it isn't serving to break tension, which is what you're supposed to have comedic beats for. Like comedy beats are there to break tension, unless you're doing like a slapstick. But even then, there's still tension breaking moments. Like they should punctuate following some sort of moment of intensity or whatever. Like it just works the same way as being scary. Talking about being a writer, which the musician, let me gather all those words back up and speak them like an articulate adult. I also maybe just wanted to see more of the spaceship. Maybe like what would improve this episode? More of the spaceship.
The really cool spaceship.
I have a note that I actually think the Japanese episode works a lot better. There are less weird cuts. The transition between scenes is a bit more natural. I think that even the Japanese Chibi Moon is presented like just a little bit more sympathetically. Like the classic 90s stuff really doubled down on making her the world's most annoying kid. And she's annoying in Japanese, but she isn't that annoying. Like she's making a lot of the same bad decisions, but the 90s dub tends to present the characters more aggressive and mean than they actually are. And it makes a difference when that character is already a little shit.
Yep.
And so like, because the Japanese episodes don't have weird cuts and the characters aren't also hostile to each other for no reason, you don't have these moments where you are intensely transitioning from heated emotional moments where everyone is at each other's throats to like, you just missed her. So those are my notes in the episode.
All right. So that is the episode. We think that this is a worthwhile episode. A lot was accomplished. And but we do think that it could have been fixed with some tweaks. So let's move on to the next episode. So yeah, let's talk about episode 67. English title, Rubeus Strikes Out. Monica?
Japanese title, episode 74, Defeat Rubeus, the final battle in space. Once again, that's just the plot. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, obviously, we had a cliffhanger in the previous episodes. We are on the UFO. Rubeus is monologuing to the absent Sailor Moon and tells Sailor Moon to meet him in a few hours if she wants to try and get her friends back. Like, he's just projecting this out into the city. They can hear it standing in the alleyway. Emerald once again shows up to mock Rubeus and tell him that it sucks to suck. She does nothing else and leaves. Rini tells Darien that she knows he's Tuxedo Mask, and so he asks her why she tried to take the silver crystal to the future. She says she needs it to save her mom. Darien asks her what happens there. She claims she doesn't know, no matter how hard he shakes her. She continues to claim this, but he does shake a small child. Serena, meanwhile, is frustrated and genuinely wishes she could just give Rini up in exchange for getting her friend back. The cats ask her if she really feels that way, and she says no, she's just upset. But, like, no matter how shitty Rini is, she can't help but care about the little fungus. She reflects by herself on how, at one point, she would have just cried and, like, wished that the cup would pass her by. but she steals her resolve and decides that she's going to go sneak off by herself to rescue her friends. The cats, meanwhile, have come up with a plot. Their plot is that 1, they're going to make a fake silver crystal to give to Rubeus. And then 2, they're going to disguise themselves as Rini to fool Rubeus. Yes, that's right. 2 cats in a pink wig, which is hilarious. While they're discussing this, Serena sneaks out past them. Darien then arrives, notices that Serena is gone, and while he's freaking out about this, Rini also runs off after her, leaving Darien just fucking stymied and thinking about how they're both the same brand of idiot. Rubeus greets Sailor Moon and Rini from his evil spaceship. Rini is just caught up to her. They're pulled up into the UFO by a tractor beam. Darien and the cat show up too late, and they just stare impotently at the UFO. They don't attempt to go after them. So on the ship, Rubeus greets them both. Sailor Moon claims that Rini isn't really Rini, she's her cousin Trini, and that Sailor Moon has tricked him. Rubeus does not buy this. Sailor Moon then gently tells Rini find a place to hide and stay safe while she deals with the situation. Moon attacks him. He uses like a gravity crystal on his ship to disable her attack, and then he first like crushes Sailor Moon with the gravity and then makes her float with the gravity. He explains that the crystal on his ship is what's allowing him to use these like powerful gravity forces. Rini, meanwhile, finds the squad and tries to reach them, but they're surrounded by like an electrified energy field that keeps zapping her, so she can't get to them. So despite Rubeus trying to literally crush her with gravity, Sailor Moon fights to get back on her feet and vows to fight him no matter what. So Rubeus like attacks harder, and then she counterattacks harder, and they're doing that kind of a like power beams jamming against each other thing. Meanwhile, Rini then decides in order to free the squad and depower Rubeus, she's going to dislodge the UFO crystal that's giving him these like enhanced gravity powers. But every time she tries to pull it free, she's getting electrocuted by it. Rubeus tries to stop her. Sailor Moon attacks him again. Rini's forehead then glows with power, and because of that boost, she dislodges the crystal, which then leads to the whole ship getting fucked up and the squad gets released. Things are bad now. Rubeus says the ship is going to explode, killing them all. He accepts his death and symbolically crushes his evil earring while the girls get engulfed in flames all around them. The girls decide that they're going to go home using Sailor Teleport, which they do. Esmeralda shows up on the burning ship just to roast Rubeus one last time. He begs her to take him with her, and she tells him how pitiful and unneeded he is, has a last Ojo-sama laugh, and leaves. Back on Earth, Rini reminds Serena that she still has to make her pancakes. And in the future, Emerald reports to Diamond, who basically does not give a fuck and goes back to obsessing over a mysterious Odango pigtailed woman, and that's the episode.
Yeah. This one's pretty fun. We've got some good notes.
Yeah.
Our noteworthy moments included 2 cats in a trench coat. Oh, really?
Yep.
Two cats in
real.
their little Rini is fucking hilarious. Because of the way, we'll talk about this when we get to it, because of the way the Pioneer dub had to edit around certain elements when Usangi tells Chibi Moon to go hide. In the Pioneer dub, it's like, go hide in a completely open room. Go find a safe space. And you're like, where's she going to go? Behind one of the bongs and or the mirrors? Like,
Yep.
This is the only
stuff there.
Also, in the Japanese dub, there is what I described as the Evil Baseline Remix 1993. It's the that plays whenever some evil is happening. Yep. I call that the Evil Baseline. I don't actually know the title of that song, and if Uro were here, I bet they'd know.
Oh, I know. Uro would have that on.
Yeah, they can get in the comments later. But yeah, there's like a remix of that motif. Yep, the Evil Baseline. There's a remix of it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, hell yeah, Evil Baseline.
Yeah. It works. It works so well. All right, so let's talk about in the subject of things that worked. Animation quality. My note here was not ugly.
Yeah, this is the episode I was thinking about previously.
Yeah, it's not ugly.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
All
right, so plot structure. Yeah. Plot structure. Monica, you got a lot of notes here.
This series of episodes is a transition from one arc to another as we introduce some new villains. So they have all been pretty cohesive and interesting so far. And we are going to get to some stinky filler in a little bit. We are going to get to some filler that's not any fun.
It's sad.
But for right now, we're in a transitional period. We're pulling some elements from the manga. The plot structure here is pretty strong. There are real stakes. The girls have been kidnapped. Like, I have a note, this element is reminiscent of a manga plot. It's not directly the manga plot, but it's similar to it, which is part of what makes it so strong. We get a cool reuse of Sailor Teleport. Once again, my point previously about like when you establish that your characters have extremely strong powers, you have to roll them out at plot appropriate moments or they feel pointless. This is real cool to use that, call back to that, the fact that they can do this. Rubeus dies, high point. He bites,
Yeah.
which makes way for to become our new henchman for this next arc. He has transitioned out. She's in. She's going to be our new villain. And we see Prince Diamond on screen and a brand new evil spaceship.
Yeah.
We're going to see all kinds of cool evil space stuff coming up. The inners are all imprisoned on crystal crosses in Japanese, crystal fiction, if you will, and which was far too spicy for Pioneer and Deek's Good Christian Minecraft server. So there's a lot of editing around this, which led to the go hide in this completely open room moment.
Yeah, it's very, because of the editing to hide the fact that they're crucified, it's very unclear where they are for most of the episode. My note here says the overall structure of this episode is very good. The stakes for both the heroes and the villains have been clearly established. Various character motivations generally play out pretty well. I had some issues, but this episode feels incredibly fixable because it's got such good bones. Michi.
Rini redeems herself slightly. She comes around. She becomes not useless.
Yep. All right. So characterization. Michi, this is you too.
Emerald has a Dorito laugh to rival anyone in
Like, it's so good.
It's so perfect. It's like, and the person who is voice acting, just nails it. Like, understood the assignment.
I agree with you that her Dorito laugh in Japanese is just unparalleled. Like, it's so good and so annoying. It's perfect.
Yeah, my positive characterization notes here were I really enjoyed Serena seriously struggling with how upset she is and trying to process her frustration with Rini for getting her friends kidnapped. This is imagine how emotionally difficult this would be if a child was maybe getting all of your friends murdered because of their immature child decisions. But all your friends might be murdered, but you're am I allowed to be mad at a child? Because I'm so mad at a child right now because my friends might die, but she's a child. And that's such an emotional struggle. They decide to let that play out here. I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed Serena going behind the cat's back with her own plan to give up the crystal and try to save everybody. This fits. She is a very sacrificial hero, and you really get to see that here where she's at her most agency when she is sacrificing things for her friends. So I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed Emerald's first 2 episodes just being her dunking on Rubeus and then letting him crash and burn. It's hilarious and a great lead into what kind of character she is. The viewer doesn't initially know how much of what she's telling Rubeus about Diamond is true, and based on her report back to Diamond, she might have made some of it up, but we'll never know.
Love backbiting villain moments, and this season sure has it in spades. I actually also really like Serena / Usagi because both of them go through this in both translations. She has a really emotional moment struggling with who to save and what the right thing to do is. It's a really strong high point in both versions of this episode. She's not in the wrong to be completely frustrated with what a cute youth is. Her being I don't want to help her because she sucks is correct. And then she resolves herself to help Rini anyway. But the right thing to do is to help her, which shows a lot of character growth. And she even comments on I've had a lot of character growth.
Yeah.
She does that more in Japanese where she's previously I would have been I'm too tired, I'm hungry, I don't want to do this. And she's look at me stealing myself to go do the right thing. It's a really good moment. This rewatch has endeared me to Usagi in a way that I have not been previously. Yeah. Japanese dialogue does use different wording, completely different wording, but the moment is basically the same. She calls out that she's not grown up enough to have the strength for this, but then resolves herself to do it anyway. It's the same emotional arc, just phrased differently, and it's really good in both versions.
It's incredibly good.
Rini finally comes to terms with who Sailor Moon it really is, and finally shows her a little bit of respect. And to me, that was really important because up to this point, she's really idolized Sailor Moon, but she's shown negative respect to Usagi for different reasons. And then Serena's just been a pain to Rini, but Rini, honestly, for a lot of it, it's her fault.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what do we think was the relevance here to the ongoing story.
Okay, like I talked about before, this is transitional episode where the Rubeus arc is ending and the Emerald era is beginning. And so we're still in the thick of the plot. Emerald gives Rubeus in the 90s dub 5 hours to unfuck this problem or he's dead. And that, I like that. That was pretty cool. And I had a note that was like, I wonder what the time limit is in Japanese. And it's until tomorrow. And I like the 5 hours better. I think that's nastier.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe there was a timing thing why they changed that. But I like, until tomorrow is still not a lot of time, but her being like 5 hours, bitch, is cattier. And I love it. Yep. In this episode, Chibi Moon reveals why she's in the past, that her mom in the future is in danger. When Mamoru insists that she tell him why, she reiterates that she doesn't know, which may or may not be true. We're still learning as the characters are. There's a really cool showdown with Rubeus and his evil spaceship trademark. And I know we were a bit confused about like, what is Rubeus's henchman power? It's a good bit clearer in Japanese how his gravity powers work. The 90s dub doesn't particularly bother to explain it at all. He just has gravity powers for no reason. In Japanese, there's in fact a line where he's like, the ship amplifies my power.
Yeah, it's very in the Pioneer version, it implies that the gravity powers are the powers of the ship, which makes it unclear what Rubeus's personal powers are. Whereas, in the Japanese, they make it clear gravity is Rubeus's power, and the ship makes him 10 times as powerful, which fits with the idea that previously he had this like 5 times as powerful wand that he gave to Prisma to enhance her powers by 5 times. So it tracks better.
Yeah. And I don't remember if this was in the 90s cut, but I may have also just been not looking at the screen at that second the spaceship fucking explodes.
Yeah.
It like they blows up and it like lights up the sky on Earth. It's a cool moment. I don't know if that's relevant to the ongoing story, but I did put it here as something I like. Maybe I should have put that in a standout moment. Yeah, this is very relevant.
Yeah.
My notes that say Rubeus finally kicks the can.
Which is certainly very relevant to the ongoing story. Obviously, as we've said, it's a villain turning point when we're losing a villain, getting a new villain.
Yeah.
My note here says this was a really important turning point for Rini in that this is the point at which she has to start choosing to help the problems that she's caused in the past, not just try to run away to go solve the problems she caused in the future. Because previously we've seen that she's taken the past as like, that's not my problem. I'm going to take away their silver crystal. That's not my problem. I need it to go solve the problems that I've caused in the future. And now there's this accountability of the fact that like she has to start choosing to actually not be the problem in the past. And I felt that in this episode, her asking Serena at the end of the episode to make her pancakes was an indicator that she's starting to actively embrace wanting Serena around. So those felt like relevant to the arc of the story. Was it exciting and engaging, even if it wasn't relevant or high quality?
Yeah, it even hazard to say it was good.
I will say I actually enjoyed this episode.
I think it was definitely exciting. This was a pretty like nonstop go episode. There's no point at which you're going to be like, this part drags a little bit. It's there nonstop, like giving you the plot. So the standout moments for everybody. My standout moments were A, 2 cats in a trench coat. It cannot be beaten. And then B, the my cousin Trini gambit, which didn't work even slightly and was hilarious.
Rubeus, Usagi eventually calls the wrong name. And Rubeus is like, Rini, don't you mean your cousin Trini? Like in a tone of voice where he's like, he didn't believe you in the first place.
Yes.
And I have to say that the cousin Trini bit is definitely funnier than I used them. There's a similar beat where she is like, this isn't the rabbit, this is someone else. And then she's like, Jimmy Moon or something like that. And he was like, I thought you said this wasn't who you just literally just. Yeah. It's a similar moment, but it's definitely funnier in the 90s cut.
Agreed.
It's a case of good localization there.
Yes.
And I think it's fine to break from translation to occasionally just be funny.
Agreed.
Sailor Moon standing up at maximum G-force was a hell of a moment.
Yes. Very heroic.
I loved it. And especially the way they animated her pigtails was very impressive. Somehow they got the weight of her pigtails and her buns. It was really cool. And then Emerald coming just to particularly say, you suck and die. At the last moment with Rubeus hat in the spaceship. Yeah, the Japanese has when she's like pulling herself up too, she also has a real classic like unforgivable moment from Usagi. Like they usually have her say that like in extreme moments of tension or when she's like in incredible emotional duress but has rallied herself to stand up.
Yep.
A real good moment here.
All right, favorite part.
For me, it's definitely Sailor Moon's moment deciding to protect Rini, who she doesn't even know is her daughter, even though she really and truly sucks.
Sailor Moon's speech to Rubeus over how the power of love gives her the strength.
I like that. Yeah, for me, I put Serena contemplating her own character growth even while grappling with her own complex and negative emotions. I said she, to borrow an overused therapy speak phrase, holds space for herself. I felt like this was also a big moment in terms of how self-sacrificing she'll continue to become. We will continue to see her trying time and time again to offer herself up to save her friends. Favorite character of the episode? I wrote down supportive Artemis. Luna could learn from him.
Seconded.
Third, and we love our cat husband.
Artemis is just a
Good boy, Artemis,
bean.
this episode. All right, do we recommend this episode?
Yeah, because it's part of this arc. This is the end of this. If you're gonna if you're gonna mainline the plot of the 90s show, this is an episode you need to watch.
Yep, agreed. All right, so let's talk about what didn't work. Animation quality.
Oh boy, do we have some off-model faces right up front. And the cats are so janky throughout the episode to the point where I left a note that says, what do cats look like? I don't know.
Yeah, my animation note here says they edited out the scouts being crucified, so they seem to appear from nowhere. And obviously that's going to be Pioneer specific. In the Japanese version, like you do get to see where they are. It's because they're on these big crystal crosses. So let's talk about what didn't work. Here in the plot structure section, I had notes on what I didn't think worked in the plot structure. I said, to be honest, this episode felt very unevenly paced to me, which was my biggest struggle with it. It felt like about 2 episodes worth of content crammed into 1 episode, which made some of the character decisions feel like oftentimes very rushed, flat, or unearned. Rini like flips a switch and immediately gets on board with letting the adults take the lead when previously she had not done that, without it feeling like there was a progression to that. Like one moment she's being like headstrong and just being like, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. And the next moment Rini's like, you find some place to hide. And she's like, yeah, okay. It felt like there should have been more of a progression of that feeling earned. And because there was so much content in this episode, it didn't feel like any of that had room to breathe to me. So characterization, what did we not like in characterization?
How Darien deals with bad problems.
Oh, I wrote down, like, I think the specific dialogue here was Rini saying, I like you being Tuxedo Mask, but I really don't know how I feel about Serena being Sailor Moon. And Darien responds literally, oh no,
anyway,
well.
interchange anyway.
Darian's characterization in Pioneer is a bit shaky in his scene with Rini. Like, he goes from softly parental to, like, blase to, like, shaking her and being weirdly insistent within about 5 seconds. I wrote down, was this different in Japanese? I don't think it necessarily was. And then, characterization-wise, Darien gets mad at Serena and Rini for both running off and calls them meatball heads, derogatory. Like, this is not the time in which to, like, again, say derogatory things about Serena yet again. This is the woman you love.
Yeah. They just make Luna such a head in the 90s cuts.
Yeah.
Like, she's so mean in a, like, demeaning and, like, frankly, almost abusive way. Like, it's me. Like, she badmouths Usagi the second they're not near each other, and sometimes directly to her face and to her friends. And pro tip, if you're ever listen, kids, the children who are definitely watching this, if you are around someone who is constantly talking bad on someone when they're not around, or to their face or to all their friends, that person is bad, and you should not hang out with them. Because if they're doing that to someone else, they're going to do that about you.
Yep.
Even if they're super nice to you right now, that is an eventuality. Anybody who talks to people like that will eventually talk about you like that.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
This leads neatly into worst part of the episode.
Yeah, the consistent presentation in these classic 90s dubs where everyone is so down on Serena. It fucking sucks. It sucks. It's probably the worst part about this. I know that they changed that for viewers' sake, but I don't particularly find it very fun. This is not a problem in Japanese, frankly. The characters in Japanese are super nice to each other.
Yep.
They sometimes have a little bit of disagreement,
sure.
but it feels like the disagreements you would have normally with your friend group.
Yes.
Yeah, a bunch of these things that we have identified as the worst parts of episodes are simply not in the original. However, in the Japanese, there is a Chibi Moon underwear shot. My note, in fact, says in all capital letters, hey, no, get that Chibi Moon underwear shot out of here. Disgusting.
Yeah, Deke edited that, or Pioneer edited that out. Not Pioneer.
thanks to that. We could have done without that entirely. The Japanese episode also gets a worst moment for there being some real music playing while the spaceship is on fire. Like, there's this intense moment where, like, Esmeralda's confronting Rubeus and the spaceship's about to blow up and, like, tremendously blow up. And the background music is like smooth jazz.
Yup. That's something that happens often in the Japanese version of the 90s anime is there's just like random sort of smooth jazz music that is tonally dissonant to the entire scene. All right, Michi, your worst part?
Not being able to see the inner scouts as hostages.
Yeah, it makes the episode more confusing.
Yeah, and like you wonder, like you see them there, you see them fall down from nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Were they there this whole time? Apparently.
So my worst part was Rubeus just sucks as a villain. Like, he's utterly dislikable, but he's completely unmenacing otherwise. He is an unintimidating villain in any way. You hate him because he's a bad person, not because he's threatening at all. All right, so things this episode could have done entirely without.
Yes,
We've already noted Moon's underwear shot.
Yeah, yes. Sailor Moon in general is often very guilty. The 90s anime, at the very least, is often very guilty of one of my least favorite tropes, which is that the plot only works if no one fucking talks to each other. And this episode had a bunch of that, which annoys me. So I'm thumbs down on that one.
Yep. My note was Rubeus's monologuing felt repeatedly ineffective because he so consistently failed to be a threatening presence. Like, he keeps having these evil monologues to them, and they don't work because he's never done anything to really threaten them. So why not cut them out? So let's talk about what would make it better. I think these are all my notes. So I'll just do this
all
section.
you.
Yeah. All right, so here's how I did genuinely try to approach how would I improve these episodes. So for me, I think if this episode had about 10 more minutes of runtime to work with, it could have been a lot more successful for me. For example, it would have been really cool to see a little scene with Serena and Darian where she tries to convince him to try and get info out of Rini so that he and Rini are off being distracted while she goes off on her own to try to fix everything single-handedly. That shows more of a, like, her setting up, like, I need to get them out of the way so that I can sneak off and self-sacrifice. Given that her choice to make her own plan was such a tentpole of this episode, it felt like that could have been played into more and would have actually really set up a nice lesson for Darian of, like, this is how it feels when your partner has a plan and doesn't tell you about the plan and you don't agree with that plan and it hurts you that they didn't rely on you, because it really would have exposed to him what it feels like to be on the other side of that. I think it would have made it a lot more evident to Rini that Serena will always try to do the most when the chips are down while also keeping her friend safe. It feels like it would be giving Serena more of like a build up to her choices in this episode and would have created more space for Darian and Rini to both react to and be emotionally moved by those choices, which again would have made both of their character arcs in this season a little less annoying for me. My second fix was I would have also decided on a distinct power set for Rubeus and stuck with it. Does he have lightning powers, gravity powers, or no powers and he's just a guy on a cool spaceship and the spaceship has powers? Because he really hasn't put in any work. Again, there's no reason for us to feel like he's a specific and particular threat. Take a shtick and stick to it. And again, this was less of an issue in the Japanese version where we did discover that no, it's implied that he does have a specific power set. It is specifically gravity powers, and that's just never conveyed. So that's how I would fix the episode.
I read your note and thought, it's a good, I don't have anything to add to that. That is very good. That covers everything I would have said.
Yeah.
I've been having the most fun with the part where I'm like, how do I fix this episode? So I tend to try and
Clearly,
go off the nose.
you must have been meant to be a script doctor.
I just want to take it and be like, all right, I think we could make this work. Because like I said earlier in my review of this episode, is like the bones were, there were such strong bones for this episode that I think, although I didn't enjoy the episode, it was so fixable.
Yeah.
All right. Dub episode 68. The Pioneer title is The Secret of the Lunosphere. I just want to be clear, they've never once called it the Lunosphere.
Ever.
They don't call it the Lunosphere in the episode either.
No.
Nope. Just in this episode
episode.
title. Okay, so the Japanese episode 75's title is A Mysterious New Soldier, Sailor Pluto appears. Spoilers?
Spoilers. Big spoilers. All right, so if you've never seen this episode before, hang in there because it may not make any sense as I'm giving you the description of the episode because it just is suddenly happening. So when we enter the episode, Rini is like running through a black space, being chased by a giant purple crystal, and also chased by a mysterious Grim Reaper guy. She wishes for her mom to come help her. Meanwhile, back in the future, Diamond has a nice chat with Emerald and Sapphire and complains that Emerald's evil laugh is too loud. Sapphire questions why they even need to actually go after Rini and the Silver Crystal when their evil black crystal is stronger. Diamond then summons Wise Man, who tells Diamond that their current plan is perfectly fine and they should just do that. No one ever listens to Sapphire. Meanwhile, in the past, for some reason, Rini has suddenly been asleep in bed for 3 days straight and having nightmares. She calls out for Luna P, and it activates a transmission to Sailor motherfucking Pluto. Pluto tells the other scouts who are in the room that they need to go into Rini's dream and save her, and then Pluto transports them in. They find themselves in like a beautiful but ravaged landscape, which they deduce must be Crystal Tokyo. Rini is there. She's hiding and crying for her mother, and the squad finds her. But Rini says that she doesn't know them and is distrustful, but they insist that they are her friends. She runs away and runs into, and let's note that his name is the Grim Man. She runs into the Grim Man again. The squad attacks him and they fight. Rini runs away again. Sailor Moon goes after her. Rini thinks that Sailor Moon and her friends are in league with the Black Moon clan who destroyed her world. And Sailor Moon says she's not. Rini doubts that, but she says that she's willing to trust them if Sailor Moon will save her mom in exchange. Rini then takes her to the Crystal Palace, which is surrounded by an evil force field, which is created by the Dark Crystal, so they can't actually get it. The squad and the Grim Man catch up. They wonder why their attacks aren't like doing shit against the Grim Man. The Grim Man nearly knocks Rini down like a giant fissure in the ground, but Sailor Moon catches her with her hand, pulls her back out, and that causes Rini to realize that Sailor Moon is on her side. Rini then believes in Sailor Moon, and because it's a dream, Rini's belief in her gives Sailor Moon the strength to defeat the Grim Man. So then, now that he's been defeated, they go to the Crystal Palace and see like a mysterious Odango pig-tailed woman escaped in crystal. Who could it be? But the dream ends before they can get close enough to find out who it is. They all wake up. Pluto thanks them for their help. Rini tells Pluto that she wants to go back home, but Pluto says like the mission in the past isn't done yet. And that's the episode. So what worked? Animation quality, what did you like?
Yeah, the opening right away with the nightmare scene with this cool minimal background, it works for being very frightening. However, I will say that there's a flashing lights warning for this. There's a lot of strobing in this early sequence.
Yep. What worked for me animation-wise was the Grim Man honestly has a really cool design. Like, he just looks real cool.
Yeah. This is the Toei Animation team, our favorite guys, and it is remarkably restrained for them. No one gets tied up.
I didn't even recognize them.
Yeah, it wouldn't occur to you because, then nothing horny happens.
Yeah, there are also some really beautiful frames of the ruined future in the dream sequence. Like, someone on the Toei Animation team just, like, really loved doing those watercolor backgrounds. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, they're absolutely stunning. Plot structure, what do we like?
I always love a plot device where someone has to enter someone else's dream in order to save them from metaphysical threat. That's like catnip for me. I'm like, yes, I love it. Gotta enter a dream. I'm here for it.
Yep. And I was similar. I was like, I love a good dream sequence. It's a good way to show the future without having to go there. Kind of Doctor Who.
A little bit,
yeah. I noted like having it be Rini's dream was a nice way to control the flow of meta information because like you can give meta information, but the scouts are only learning what Rini's mind is willing to show them. So you want to be giving more information, but you don't want to spoil the whole big reveals later. This is a good way to do that. What did we like in characterization?
We all were in agreement that the main three of the Black Moon clan have great voices. Like the voice acting in the Pioneer dub is spectacular. I also just love the main three of the Black Moon clan. They're the fucking worst in the best way. These guys suck. Complimentary. Also, my man's out here. He's out here like, guys, we need to focus on the important things. Guys, please.
No one listens.
Wait, I don't know that it's been established, like, because the 90s cut takes away the point of the Black Moon clan, which is one of the things that makes them interesting. Like, yes. They are, in fact, a revolutionary faction. They're, hey, maybe immortal demigods shouldn't rule us. And in that, like, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
The problem is Sapphire is the only revolutionary in the group. Commander just really wanted to possess Neo Queen Serenity. Esmeralda is here to fuck him. And Rubeus heard he could kill people and agreed.
Yep. Completely accurate.
The 90s stuff also doesn't include that Chibiusa calls Pluto poo. That would not have translated well. That is a funny word in English. As we were discussing on our voice call, they could have gone with Plu, which would have been pretty cute.
Yep.
And they raised Rena to be a brat.
Yep.
So my characterization notes, Sailor Moon's older teen role model energy is like off the charts lately, which is awesome. Rather than playing into characterizing her as being suddenly surprisingly just maternal, which I don't think I would have found as believable, they're capturing that sense of like an older teen who knows how to be reassuring to a child. I think there's a distinct difference between what it feels like when you see a grown up interacting with a child versus like older teenager interacting with a child. I think they've characterized her well in that sense. It really worked for me. And then also characterization wise, you will have learned by this point that Rini fucking loves pancakes. Oh, also, I just want to appreciate Sailor Denzel says, Relia doing the voice of the Ripper was a highlight for me on the Patreon walk along. Thank you so much. Yeah, on Patreon, I believe I noted that while the design for the Grim Man was fantastic, his voice did not feel like it fit. So you will get to hear me mocking that voice on Patreon watch along. Please enjoy that. All right, so let's talk about what did we think was the relevance to the ongoing story here?
So we have introduced Sapphire or Saphir. He's now on screen and indicated to be an important character. And of course, Sailor Pluto is here. We learn, if you are somehow watching through this for the first time, we learned that there are Sailor Guardians of planets that are not the inner planets, the main five. It didn't end at Jupiter. There are, in fact, going to be more. And I remember before I started surfing around online, I was like, there's a Pluto. What about Saturn?
Right. They have to be.
Have to be, right? Like, oh, what did that mean? I also remember losing my mind over this episode as a kid. Like, I wanted the reruns to happen so badly so that I could see Sailor Pluto again. Find it's interesting that the Pioneer dub kept the title Small Lady and didn't go with something else. Just sometimes they change things for the sake of changing them. And they could have been like Princess or whatever, but they didn't. They went with Small Lady.
Right. It was Small
Right.
Lady.
Yeah, so we also have the reveal that's her title. And this also tells us what happened to Neo Queen Serenity in the future, so that's also really important and relevant.
Yep. So my plot relevance notes, this was yet another huge plot episode. We're finally getting the rest of the roster of baddies because Diamond and Sapphire have now entered the fray. Diamond already establishes himself as being like the self-indulgent brother, and Sapphire is being the responsible one, which they do a great job of making clear in their intro scene. There's some really nice forward progress in getting Rini to open up to and trust the scouts, and the scouts starting to learn more about the future plotline. And Pluto, huge.
Lady Chapel cosplay coming and saying I wanted to be Sailor Pluto in the 90s.
Who didn't?
Yeah, valid.
Hello, Luna. Better idea, Prince Diamond and Sapphire is here.
Yeah,
I think it's Sapphire and Dub, right?
Yeah, it's Sapphire and the Dub. Yep.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Was it exciting and engaging, even if it wasn't relevant or high quality?
So I'm not gonna lie, and I forgot how much I really like this episode in particular from this batch of episodes, which all bled together in my memory. And often when I haven't seen something in a while, I'll remember 3 episodes as one episode and blend it together. The director's cut in my head of these 3 episodes is excellent. So when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, it's this episode that part of this, the end of this arc that's so good. And usually I'm not a huge second arc fan, but this part of the plot is where we actually get to what's going on in the future and the struggle to save it. And I think that's where the second arc is at its peak, really.
Agreed. Michi?
I think it's super exciting to get a new scout and get the backstory for the future. I think this is a big historic moment. Anytime we get a scout, those are our favorite episodes. Those are episodes where when you're starting to get rid of stuff and you're like, oh, what DVDs do I keep? You put aside the intro episodes, the identity revealed episodes. That is what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think this is definitely engaging throughout. They've really seemingly abandoned all filler at this point and are just giving episodes right now that just keep chugging things along, which I think is a positive. Standout moment.
Obviously, it's when Sailor Pluto shows up.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
This episode also has that iconic image of the girls backlit by the moon standing on the pillar in the ruined future. Like, it's an iconic image from the series. I wish I had it to pull up right now, but that moment is from this episode. So
You've definitely seen it on like calendar covers and things like that. This is
you've seen it before.
classic visual. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just like the teamwork against the enemy. I thought it was actually really solid teamwork. We're seeing the more adult side come out where like they're becoming more tacticians and able to really handle a battle.
For me, the standout moment was like, I love a dramatic irony moment. So this is the moment where the scouts almost get to see who Neo Queen Serenity is, but they get kicked out of the dream right before they can like learn the thing that we as the audience already know. Like for us, as the audience, we are aware of what it is that they have not yet learned, and we can see them almost learn it, and then they don't. And I always enjoy that kind of a thing. I think it can work really well. Favorite part?
Pluto.
Yeah, my favorite part of this episode was that thematically, the key element to defeating the villain was Rini needing to believe in the scouts. I thought that was really good for the fact that that was the purpose of this episode in terms of Rini's development is we're trying to build on her believing and trusting these people because that's where she's at in her storyline.
Yeah, I really liked how this revealed a ton of key information, like the destruction of the future, the fact that there are other Sailor Guardians, and the looming threat of the Dark Moon Clan.
Yep. Favorite character of the episode?
Pluto.
Yeah, Pluto, obviously. But I think we also got to give a big nod to Usagi's character growth and bravery throughout this episode.
Yeah. But I also answered Pluto.
Yeah. We were all like unanimously like, yeah, it's Sailor Pluto's
Sailor Pluto. All right, so what didn't work? Animation quality. This is the horny animation team. That's the quality. This is the quality you will expect from them.
You know, it's like they're surprisingly mostly behaved, which
Yeah,
was surprising.
It wasn't very horny.
No,
What?
like where are their trademarks?
Yep. So what didn't work about the plot structure? My notes here were A, Rini is just suddenly in a 3-day coma. Like when last we saw her, they were all laughing and she was waiting to have pancakes made for her. And now they're freaked out because she's been in a coma for 3 days just out of nowhere. And then B, literally the Grim Man was never, not even once explained. Why is this happening to her? Who is he? Never explained.
I had always assumed that the Grim Man was some kind of aspect of Wise Man because of the way he looks. But that's not actually stated anywhere. That's just my headcanon. I just saw that and was like, yeah, that's what that is. But the thing is, in Japanese, he's not even named. He's just a horrifying figment of her imagination, which works much better. And I don't think he has any lines of dialogue. I think he's just menacing. Like, he might laugh, but I don't think he says much in Japanese, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe a threat or two?
Yeah, I think he's probably has some threats of like, all right, now I'll cut you.
Yeah, like, die, right? Like, oh, it's just a scary thing from her imagination, but the nightmare is caused by the evil black crystal, malefic dark crystal. It has like 10 different,
It is
a
10
bunch of
different
different translations of its name. So he's like a manifestation in her imagination because of that, which sort of points back to my like aspect of wise man theory a little.
Yeah.
All right. So mine was, it felt like we cut in halfway through an episode. It didn't really feel like we got an explanation for what was happening.
We didn't. We did not.
Like, it was one of those end credits, let's go.
All right. What didn't work in terms of characterization?
Yeah, it bothered me that they decided to call that guy Grin Man, which is famously the name of a cloaked dude with a scythe.
Funny every
Yes.
time.
They could have gone with Reaper, which would have been the same number in mouth flaps, Grin
Yep.
Man, or
Grin
not
Man.
named it like they did in Japanese. Just don't name it.
No, but they went
Yeah.
with Grim Man. It's the stupidest name, and I love it so much.
No, and then I went with the characterization of why is Rainy a spoiled brat in the future too? Could be because she was scared, but my point about the inner Senshi is still valid.
Yeah, she's just a brat.
Yeah.
What relevance to the ongoing story?
The almost, you got to see Neo Queen Serenity, but you didn't moment.
Yeah. Was it boring? If so, why? I said, not boring, just weird.
Agreed. Not boring, just weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the worst part of the episode?
That Rainy.
I said she's the worst part of many episodes, honestly.
You're not wrong. I said all the stuff that was literally just never explained really weakened what could have easily been a stronger episode. Also, the Grim Man's voice was goofy, didn't fit his badass look. All right, so things it could have done entirely without.
So this dovetailed really nicely into the point that I put down, which is in the 90s dubbed, they really should have had Grim Man say less. He's so freaky looking, and then he sounds so dumb, and it takes me right out of it. Like, his silence and his lack of being named makes him scary, and then they defang him completely.
I literally co-signed that one because I agree.
That's what.
No, and then for me, it was Soggy having to prove herself to Rini. There should be no reason that we have to have that happen. That she's Sailor Moon, you know that she's gonna know. We don't know yet about the other part, but like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, so let's fix it. What would make it better?
I really should like tone it down when I'm writing these. I said Rini being afraid of the scouts and not addict to them. She knows the inners as her mother's guardians and friends. How the hell does she not recognize them? They may look slightly younger, but for realsy, put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, so for me, this episode really suffers from its just absolute failure to explain what's going on. The Grim Man isn't explained, neither is Rini's coma. I think in the previous episode, instead of ending with them all laughing and smiling into the sunset, they could have easily and like dramatically ended on a cliffhanger instead, with Rini suddenly passing out. And then in this episode, you would learn that the Grim Man was some kind of droid associated with the evil floating castle, and that it had entered Rini's mind when she was trying to pull loose the evil crystal in the prior episode. I think that would have made for such a nice setup of here's why she is suddenly passed out, what suddenly happened to her. And it would have had a much different like tonal take from giggling about pancakes at the end of the previous episode to suddenly they're freaking out because she's in a coma. That's my fix. All right, so let's get into it. The time has finally come. After 68 episodes, we have finally reached episode 69.
Nice.
Our pioneer title, Emerald Takes Over.
And Japanese episode 76, Magical Power of Darkness, Esmeralda's Invasion. And let's eat an egg roll together.
Go for it.
The chat, let's eat an egg roll together. Oh, you know what? So we're going to had a question.
Yeah,
The answer before we jump into that summary. He asked, is this the episode where they see Emerald for the first time? No, it is not. Or no, it is not. That's this one.
Yeah, this is the episode where they're going to meet her. All right. In this episode, Rini and Serena are out walking together. They spontaneously run into Darien. Rini wants to go with Darien instead, so Darien and Rini go off together, and Serena like stews about it. This is different in the Japanese version. In the Japanese version, Serena, we'll get back to that. It's really nice in the Japanese version. But Emerald, meanwhile, is about to go take over the Rubeus mission. Her plan is that they're going to overwhelm all the crystal points with dark power to open the dark gate, which will allow them to just corrupt the entire planet. Her plan is that she's going to use special evil crystals conveniently shaped like herself and jam them into the crystal points to pour power into them. Once they establish a few of those points, they can open the dark gate, flood the whole past world with evil power. Sapphire says he made the crystals just like she asked, so she goes off to fulfill her mission. Meanwhile, a new patisserie has opened in town and is giving away free all-you-can-eat cake for their first day, which is a big hit with everybody. All the girls want to go in. There's some fat phobia from Amy and Artemis. As Emerald then shows up serving all-you-can-eat cunt, she uses her evil earring as a dowsing crystal to find a perfect good spot for her evil statue, puts down the evil statue. But instead, she, along with Serena, get drawn into stuffing her face with all-you-can-eat cake because it's just that good. Some of the other girls run into Emerald, who's embarrassed by seeing the humans obsess over eating cake. She suspects that delicious cake was an enemy plot to get to her. She runs off and transforms into her evil bodycon dress so she can go do evil stuff. Meanwhile, Serena is still having weird jealousy over the fact that Rini is hanging all over Darien. Emerald drops her little statuette, in Japanese this is called a dark henge, in the kitchen and summons a droid with whipped cream boobies to kill everybody nearby so that no one will discover her statuette while it's doing its thing. Rini and Darien also show up for the all-you-can-eat cake, and Rini and Serena start bickering. Meanwhile, customers start getting covered in royal icing. Darien distracts the enemies so that the other girls can run off and transform. The girls show up transformed. They get variously covered in royal icing and or cakes and donuts. Tuxedo Mask shows up and says something so weirdly obscure that even Sailor Moon is confused by it. Sailor Mercury says, oh, he must mean that Mercury's attack will work against her. So she attacks the droid and it works. Sailor Moon can then kill the droid. They then all confront Emerald. She says that she's the highest ranked woman in the Black Moon clan and cackles. They complain about how loud her laugh is and she disappears. And that's the episode. So a couple of comments on differences that I made note of in the Japanese. So in the Japanese, it's the very beginning of the episode when Chibiusa and Usagi are out walking together and they run into Mamoru. Chibiusa is very excited to see him, and Usagi spontaneously says, oh, you two must want to go off together, then you guys should go off together. Good luck with that. And then she just like fucks off immediately. And Rini's like, oh, I was like, says to Mamoru, she's like, oh, I was hoping we would all go together, the three of us. Meanwhile, Usagi, it turns out the reason that she ditched them was because she knew that Chibiusa had just been going through a lot and she thought it might really cheer Chibiusa up to have a day with Mamoru. So she was trying to like let her have a day with him, which is actually really sweet. And I'm sad that they changed that in favor of just playing into the weird Oedipal jealousy.
No, that's sad.
The other notable thing is in the Japanese version, at the end, after they've killed the droid and they're all confronting Esmeralda, Esmeralda then like flirts with Tuxedo Mask openly and he cringes away out of frame because he's so freaked out by her flirting with him. And they all consistently, at multiple times, both in her human disguise and in her Esmeralda form, they keep referring to her as, I want to say like Obasan maybe, like they basically are calling her Granny, which she's very offended by.
So rude, because she's max in her 20s.
These little 14-year-olds treating her like an old woman.
The highest ranked woman in the Black Moon clan. You mean currently the only one?
Yeah, the only one left.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so what worked? Animation quality.
Good. The background extras look cute.
I agree with that. I noted that Emerald's civilian outfit was great. I mean,
Oh.
like, the woman is serving at all times, but her civilian outfit was also serving.
Like her civilian outfit somehow makes Christmas colors look really good.
She works it. All right, what worked in terms of plot structure?
Set up evil plot place, girls fall for evil plot place. Ta-da!
Yeah, straightforward.
Yeah, this has a very strong beginning with Emerald explaining her Crystal Point plot and like the gate. I'm like, here's her plan. I'm going to use evil, sexy effigies. We're going to open up a gate, curtains for everyone else. And it also introduces what Sapphire has been doing the entire time, all the work.
Yep.
We learn he's been doing all the work. And so we've got that real strong beginning and then it's downhill from there. We'll talk about that in the bad part of the video.
Yep. That's another note about a difference between Japanese and English. In English, he just is like, I made the statue you wanted. In Japanese, Sapphire says to Esmeralda, like, I've created the statue to your exact specifications, even if I think the design was in poor taste.
Thank you for speaking the truth.
Yeah,
we like use that.
I can't believe you made me make the statue shaped like a little sexy statue of you, but I followed the blueprint. It was hilarious. All right, characterization. What worked?
And then he's never not out here delivering exactly to the client's expectations. He's a real professional. Sapphire's out here being the only member doing any kind of work, which is a positive. Like, it's the thing that I like about him.
Yep.
He's the only person with a brain cell and the only person doing any sort of work to further their cause. God help him. I also really liked Esmeralda just serving the most cunt. Just
the most.
That is the highlight of this episode, is her just serving constantly.
Yep.
And I agree that like there's a strong characterization moment where Usagi lets Chibiusa have time with Mamoru because she can't go back to her mom and is upset. And it's like actually a really sweet moment that got turned annoying and then cut short.
Yeah, it sucks, but
yeah, I guess that's a little bit of a mixed bag. I thought that moment was really great. Fact that it got cut short, not so much.
Yeah.
Also, I liked that the monster was, this is another twofold thing of the monster's named Marzipan, which is cute. I like that. It's a fun characterization. It's a good monster name. Like you're like, oh yeah, Marzipan. That's definitely the name of the monster. But they didn't keep it for the 90s dub for no reason.
No, what did they name her?
It's a word in English.
What did they name her?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think it's that though. But you can look it up if you're looking it up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up just because I'm curious.
Okay. Or it says, imagine if Demand had spent less time gooning over his canned pictures of the Neo Queen Serenity.
He can't, he won't. It's literally the only thing he feels like doing.
You missed me describing the Black, while Michi's looking for stuff, you missed me describing the Black Moon clan as like, Saphir is the only revolutionary here. Demand just wanted to goon over his candid pictures of being a Queen Serenity. Esmeralda is here to fuck Demand, and Rubeus feared he could kill people, so he agreed.
Yep. So yeah, Michi's looking for that. My notes on positive characterization. Sapphire really just unfortunately everybody's bitch, apparently. He does absolutely all the work and receives none of the respect. I think this is honestly a huge part of why he becomes the standout villain side character for a lot of people in the anime version. Audiences are like inherently sympathetic to the one evil guy who's actually putting in effort and trying to keep his baddie coworkers on task, which is true. And so he's very likable even before he gets his later character arc with Prisma, just because you're sympathetic to being the only person who's working on the group project.
I'm like determined to find this, but Sapan? Maxipan.
Maxipan?
It was worth the search.
Okay, that's a choice. Could have just been
But-
marzipan.
But marzipan's an English word. Whatever.
Yeah,
Ta-da! Pan.
Maxipan.
Also, we haven't played our game, and this is a hell of a one for the game.
Pass.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
for every
pass, yeah.
reason visually, but also because Maxipan is only one letter off of Maxipad.
I'm also gonna
Yes, I'm gonna pass. This is not my taste.
All right, Michi, you had some positive characterization notes here.
Usagi doesn't hold back on Cake in a really cute way. And Emerald
Agreed.
Achilles' heel is Cake, and it's delightful.
Agreed. Like, no one is going to stop her from getting that cake. Like, no amount of criticism from other people will make Usagi not eat the free all-you-can-eat cake.
Yeah.
All right, so positive relevance to the ongoing story. What did it contribute?
So it explains what exactly the Black Moon Clan guys are doing and how the Sailor Guardians have thwarted them in the future. So that's pretty important. That's pretty relevant. That's a thing you do need to know. They're doing the crystal point thing again that Rubeus was doing, but this time Esmeralda has like a real plan. There's a gate and a sexy crystal. All of that's very important. We learn that she is trying to open a gate specifically. It's not just a repeat of Rubeus's plan. So that also is important information for us to have. Like, I think this is the first time she mentions the gate. So unfortunately, there's a ton of plot relevant information in the first like 10 minutes of this.
Yep.
So are the recommendations going to be like real weird? Watch the first 10 minutes of this episode and
Then
turn
do
it
not
off.
watch the rest. Yep.
Yeah. Also, her little magic doodads are called dark hinges, which is neat. Put that there because it's relevant to her opening the gate. And those are a bunch of very important plot information for this episode.
Michi?
I like that Emerald takes over with her statues, gets thwarted by Cake, and then the end. Like, it's a really solid episode.
Was it exciting and engaging even if it wasn't relevant or high quality?
Sorta.
Not really.
The episode, the Japanese version of this episode is actually a lot better.
Huh.
It's still pretty dumb, but it's much more watchable in Japanese.
Of this episode, and whether it was exciting or engaging, even if it wasn't relevant, I wrote, it certainly was an episode in which I could not, at any moment, have predicted what would happen next. That was the best I could say for it. Standout moment, the line Prince Hunkster, which was, I believe, Emerald referring to Prince Diamond as Prince Hunkster. And
She's so
at one
cute.
point, Artemis is like he's in a picnic basket that they hid him in to take him with them inside the cake shop. And he thinks to himself, you'd think these bubbleheads would have realized it's only cake. Sardines are the rage these days. We agreed that this was adorable. We like seeing the cats being cats and being like, nah, sardines are where it's at.
Yeah, I would have greatly preferred a lot more cat-themed jokes to the actual fatphobic jokes that are in the dub version of this episode.
Yes.
We will say that the Japanese version is not without fatphobia, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Shockingly. Sometimes the Japanese episodes are just as bad, if not worse. This one wasn't. Also, Emerald calls the inners toddlers in the 90s
Hilarious.
cut, which is very funny.
Yep.
Emerald walking down the street and getting everybody's attention is just
I
like, wow.
Real.
It's so good.
So real. Favorite part,
Emerald giving fashion advice.
she's allowed to do, she knows fashion. So my favorite part was Emerald. This bitch thought cake was an enemy plot because it just tastes too fucking good. It was by far the funniest moment in the entire episode.
It was so funny.
Favorite
All right.
character of the episode.
Emerald.
Oh, for sure. It's Emerald. She's straight up the best part of it.
I wrote Sapphire having been forced to make Emerald's little statuettes down to the exact blueprint, even though there was no reason they each needed to be carved in her likeness.
Yes,
She did the
there
work
was.
anyway.
Fabulousness.
Okay, what didn't? Animation quality.
Off looking.
Yeah. There's a lot of funky off-model cats in this one. Loom is off-model right away. And then later I just almost consolidate my 2 notes. And here we get an off-model Artemis. Once again, what do cats look like?
We're just going to call this the off-model animation team. All right, plot structure. What didn't we like?
Yeah, this starts really strong and then just goes downhill from there.
I do not think that whole
the
big
second one is me. Yeah, the big
second one is not me. I was looking at it like,
yeah, I just never changed the color. Let me change that color.
Okay.
I said the plot structure, cute premise, horrendous execution.
Can't argue with that.
My note was, theoretically, I guess the plot structure wasn't necessarily the issue for the most part. The story has an A-B flow to it, but the entire premise of what the droido was supposed to be contributing was unclear, as well as the entire nonsense of why the scouts were losing to it, and what the hell Tuxedo Mask's inspirational speech, which even Sailor Moon made fun of, was supposed to mean, and why he needed to give mysterious clues to Sailor Mercury to tell her to use her powers on the droido, a thing she presumably would have done anyway, and that he could have also just told her to do. Characterization, what didn't we like?
Irene continues to suck. She's gonna keep sucking. She sucked a bunch in this episode. And I have a note that frankly everyone sucks in this episode, which is really more a note for the 90s cut. I think that's the thing that makes the Japanese more palatable to me, is because even though this episode's dumb, like there's none of the hostility between the inners that kind of doesn't make any sense to me. So like Artemis, they take him to the dessert buffet, which first off, I want to go to the dessert buffet. That sounds awesome.
Same.
Everything about that seems really cool. He's in a little like picnic basket. And in the 90s cut, he keeps like just being like, girls, you're gonna get so fat, you're gonna blow up and die. Like he's just insulting them the entire time while he's in the basket. And in Japanese, he's like, what am I doing? Why am I stuck in here? You girls are so mean. I want to eat cake.
Yeah, like initially when they're outside the cafe, he definitely makes several fat phobic comments about Mina and how like, okay, but if you go in there, you're going to be mad afterwards that you got fat and that you have to lose weight. Like, but then once he's in the cafe, he just also wants cake.
Wants to eat cake. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's still fat phobia in this. It's just less, there's just less of it. And he's less virulent towards the teens. And when he's in there, he's like, man, you guys didn't share any with me. You could not justify the joke, but justify the statement that like maybe he was trying to discourage her from going in because he wanted cake too and didn't want to have to sit in the basket while everyone else got to have dessert. You could at least read it that way.
Yeah.
Also, on the flip side, in the Japanese episode, Usagi, stop being jealous of a literal child. It's fucking weird.
Fucking weird.
This weird reverse incest jealousy is definitely the worst part of all the Japanese episodes, and it's going to keep going.
It's real weird. It's real weird. Okay, yeah. Characterization, what didn't I like? I wrote, everyone except Emerald, honestly, I hate them all. Serena was all over the place here. Was she upset about Darian and Rini? Did she not care? What? The girls were all the same stock nonsense girl. This was the worst written episode. If it hadn't been written in the 90s, I could be convinced that AI wrote this episode. I really didn't like this one. Even even above and beyond the fat phobia, this was such a bad episode. All right.
Yeah.
Relevance to the ongoing story. What didn't we think worked?
So that, like I keep saying, it starts off really strong and then just shames young girls for really liking dessert. Don't know why we needed to do that, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Though Emerald getting totally distracted by cake and being evil is hilarious. That's very funny. There's very minimal dessert shaming in the Japanese stuff. There's just less of it. There's some dessert shaming beforehand, and then they get in there and they're like, oh, this fucking dessert buffet. Who could be mad at that?
Yeah. Was it boring? If so, why?
It's not boring, but it is very stupid. That's my thought on that. And my note just also is like, it doesn't suck as much in Japanese. It's still really stupid, but it's not nearly as oppressive as the 90s version.
I wrote, in a series of episodes full of lots of forward character progression, this episode had no sense of character whatsoever. It was one of the worst episodes of Sailor Moon I've seen in my life. I was very mad watching this episode.
I just refused to comment. I was so upset. Like, I just straight
So
up
bad.
refused to even put anything.
Worst part. What
All
was the
that
worst part?
90s fat phobia. The Japanese also still has it. It's just different and less of it. In the Japanese version, the worst part is Usagi's beef with a literal child, her literal child, which made me wonder if there was a term for incestuous jealousy.
Not a
Uh,
clue.
Yeah. Shaming eating to me was the worst part. Like,
Yep,
the way
same.
the dub just horrendously took care of it.
Yep, that's what I wrote. Gotta be the fat phobia. I was actively furious throughout.
You can watch us be real angry during this
So,
on the
so mad.
Patreon.
It's so hard though, because we were so excited at first, and then it's like you pop the balloon.
Thing it could have done entirely without.
I said cut it.
Yeah. Shaming kids for liking food. There's that. And the weird incestuous jealousy in the Japanese. Let's
Yep.
not do either of those things.
Agreed on both counts. Fat phobia is truly off the charts and completely unnecessary. All right, what would make it better?
I would like there to be just like real jokes.
Oh, oops.
Try being funny. Like,
Write a real
instead of
joke.
this-
Yeah.
Yeah, write a real joke. How about that? This could have just been dessert puns. And we could have had some lightly horny antics. Like, there's whipped cream and donuts, and like, anytime you're like, dessert, food, Esmeralda, what could the horny
damn
animation
it.
team have done with this?
So
Like,
true. So true.
people are getting cream pied, literally.
They could have run with this ball.
There could have been so many, like, the opportunities to make like innuendo jokes and like just funny dessert puns. Japanese loves punning. I don't know why they didn't do this. That would have been so much better. It at least would have made it stupid but funny. I also I would have liked more of Emerald, just them showing us Emerald wants to be a conniving genius, but she isn't. She is in fact a shallow idiot. She can't like, it would have been very funny to have her like scheming more and then being like totally thrown off by tiramisu. Like, I think that would have been
that would have been
really funny.
Michi, what was your fix?
Cut it.
Yeah.
The entire episode.
All right. I had to really dig deep to find a way to fix this episode because it made me so furious. So here's my fix. You drop most of the structure of the episode and instead make a huge plot point out of Emerald, like, trying to do an evil plot, but then being convinced that the evil plot is being done on her by distracting her with ultra delicious cake. This was a 2-second gag. They could have made that the whole episode. That like she shows up because she's gonna do an evil plot, but she's convinced that an evil plot is being done on her. They could have made a whole episode out of it and done one of those like break the format episodes, and that would have been worlds better than the absolute dog shit that we got. Okay, let's wash our hands of that episode. I think I can confidently say Bishoujo Senshi Slumber Party does not recommend this episode.
Oh, here, wait. I actually made a new graphic just for today.
Oh, excellent. Pull it up.
Oh, I
Is
love
it up?
Yep.
Yay.
So good.
I made it just because I was like, no, you know what? These episodes suck so much. They need their own graphic.
They really do. That's such a nice graphic, too. All right, good job.
Thank you. I was working on it.
I love it. All right. So finally, we come to the last of our episodes this month, which is dub episode 70 Promises Fulfilled.
And Japanese episode 77, our feelings are the same. Usagi and Mamoru are in love once again.
They again had no reason to spoil the episode. So here we go. Okay. Serena's running late to school, and on her run, she runs into Melvin and Molly, who explain that there's a new love bracelet fad where you wear a bracelet, make a wish, and then when the bracelet breaks, your wish is going to come true. There's a new store that has all the material to make them, and it teaches free classes to customers. That's the conceit. Serena decides that she wants to give one to Darien, but she remembers him being a total dickbag to her and is feeling sad about that instead. Amy and Lita find her being sad. They try to cheer her up, so she tells them about the bracelet shop. They bump into Darien, and Serena completely trips and falls down. Darien just watches her fall down and does not help her up because he's horrible. She begs to know why he doesn't like her anymore, but he blows her off and leaves. Meanwhile, Emerald, hanging out in her evil space lounge, finds a new evil spot for her next statuette. She summons a droid. I made a note here, and the Japanese name is Udaring, which sounds like an IUD. to help her take over the new point. Lita, Amy, and Serena go to the bracelet place, hoping to cheer her up. The teacher of this class, who has some patty mayonnaise ass hair, rushes Serena through the instructions, and Serena is completely lost, and then the teacher sends them all home. At home, Serena falls asleep working on the bracelet, and while she's sleeping, she dreams about her wedding to Darien, which is then interrupted by an apocalypse. A disembodied voice tells Darien he can't marry Serena or things will go all to shit. We are familiar with this dream. We've seen this in a previous episode. This is Darien's dream that he's been having. In fact, we even hear him screaming in the dream, "Lies, that's all lies." So she wakes up and she goes to Darien's to ask him about the dream. He tries to turn her away at the door, but she mentions the dream. He admits that he's had the same dream, and she figures out immediately that, okay, he's been lying to her on purpose to push her away. So she tries to get him to stop his stupid strategy, but he refuses her and shoves her ass out the door. Serena leaves, and outside the building, Rini is there with the bracelet that Serena made, and the bracelet starts electrocuting her. All the bracelets start electrocuting people. Amy sees this and she summons the rest of the squad. Sailor Moon confronts the droid, and the droid attacks her with like magic energy rings. Tuxedo Mask shows up, then the squad. There's a whole battle and whatever. Moon dusts the droid. Tuxedo Mask leaves, but the girls tell Moon, "Girl, go get your man." So Serena runs around Tokyo to find Darien at some random ass watery overlook, and he catches her in his arms and they kiss. And that's the episode.
What do you think? Like that.
Let's get into it.
We're watching. Julia asked me, why are his pants so high? And I just responded, the 90s.
The 90s. The 90s.
Which is the correct
Yeah.
answer.
So let's talk about what worked in terms of animation quality. My high point for this was Emerald's sexy lair is legit gorgeous. I'm so mad. Like, obviously, Rubeus and the girls had the Bongs and Mirrors UFO, but Emerald's Space Lounge is beautiful.
Yeah, I also noted, I love Esmeralda's evil face lab.
It's so good.
I always said the dream quality is really beautiful to the animation.
Yeah, I think because it's taken directly from the nicer animation team who did it in the previous episode. They just reused it, so it's prettier than the rest of the animation.
Yeah.
But it's nice, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
All right, plot structure. Positives.
This is a very late 90s plot. I mean that both as a compliment and an insult. So, like, when we were very confused by this episode watching the 90s cut, but one of the things that's missing is that the friendship bracelets are called promise rings, which is really important to everything else. Thus, all the rings, there's a bunch of ring jokes. And if you aren't calling the bracelets promise rings, half of this doesn't make any sense at all.
Yep.
There's also this really funny bit at the beginning where, like, Umino and Naru are explaining to Usagi, like, what a friendship bracelet is, because girls have never heard of them before. And Usagi mishears promise ring as pro wrestling, which is a pun that doesn't with the stretch. Like, I feel like you can hear how those two things sound similarly. Like, it's more of a pun in Japanese, but I think it works in English too. If you're like, she didn't quite hear them, like how you can hear someone's promise ring really fast and be like, pro wrestling?
Yeah.
And then, imagine Naru's like, and then is like, kinky. Yep. Hilarious. So funny.
It was hilarious.
And I don't think that's in the English at all.
I think they cut that completely.
Do not remember.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a vivid memory in my mind.
There is also a specific romantic element to the promise rings that are pretty clear in Japanese. It's like a token for your bow that is not as present in the 90s dub. And it sets up the drama between Usagi and Mamoru. So, like, the fact that this is supposed to be something of a romantic token is important to some of the plot that's missing from the 90s dub. Like, I still hate that conflict between them, but at least the promise ring was centered on that conflict.
Saki learns Mamo's secret. Thank fucking God. Like, straight up.
Yeah. There certainly was a villain plot and a character progression thing. It included both of those.
Yeah, it's a pretty classic Monster of the Week style episode for whatever that's worth. If you like that episode structure, you might like it more than I did, and I don't really like the Monster of the Week structure as much as some people do, so I'd give it a pass to this one. Also, I had a note that, like you said, the monster is named Udaring. You ask your doctor about Udaring now, which makes more sense when the bracelet is called Promise Ring.
Promise ring.
which unfortunately happens to have an established meaning in English. It's not
Yeah.
thing.
Characterization.
I don't know why my first note is look at the sinister craft teacher with her evil eyebrows, which is very clearly tutoring
Yeah, she's
civilian
really
form. I think I was just enjoying the visual shorthand of like, we've made her look sinister because her eyebrows are big.
Yup.
She was sinister.
I also enjoyed that Usagi couldn't get the pattern right. Same. I also
felt her.
would like,
Same.
give me the baby one.
Some crafts I just can never get.
And
I'll rate it. It's
It-
fine.
I appreciated that they finally talked about Mamoru's real weird dreams, which did not impact the plot at all, but I'm glad that it happened. I was like, it won't make any difference to the melodrama, but at least they're having a conversation. And then my follow-up sub-bullet says, as soon as I typed the sentence, they stopped communicating. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So my positives about characterization was I liked Serena having the prophetic dream and instantly thinking, oh, this explains Darian's weird bullshit. I will immediately go communicate with him about this and improve the situation. She also later immediately twigs that the evil friendship bracelet was part of a negaplot and goes off to address it. She's becoming such a proactive hero these days. I love when instead of perpetuating the miscommunication, she's like, I infer that a miscommunication occurred. Let's communicate about this. I'll fix it. Thank you, girl. I'm so sorry he did not participate. So, relevance to the ongoing story.
This one's just filler. This one's a filler episode. I do like Emerald's evil and sexy affairs, though. Anytime she's out here being that, I support nefarious women.
I think in terms of relevance, Serena suddenly has Darian's prophetic dream. I can't believe they put this major plot point into such a filler episode. Everything about their romantic arc is absolutely relevant to this ongoing story. Absolutely nothing else about this episode is.
Got serious for like 10 seconds and then went back to idiocy.
Oh, yeah, there's a background element of trying to open the Dark Gate, which Emerald brings up a couple times, so at least there's like that.
Yep. Okay. The question, was it exciting and engaging, even if it wasn't relevant or high quality?
No, but it could have been worse.
No.
No.
Just no.
Somehow this episode was relevant and yet also neither exciting nor engaging nor high quality. It actually actively undermines the quality of the season because it's not just an empty filler episode, it's a bad relevant episode. All right, standout moment.
Oh, man, I don't know. I guess it was freaky in a good way when the bracelets did their evil thing.
Yeah.
It ended.
My standout moment was Serena trying to solve the plot by communicating. Girl, because we all just want them. You're like, fucking talk about it. Fucking talk about it. She immediately went to do that. Now, thank you, girl. Thank you. Okay, favorite part.
The theme song.
My favorite part I actually did really like at the end of the episode, the inners trying to gas up Serena at the end to go kiss her loser man. I thought it was really sweet that every single one of them was like, no, girl, you look amazing right now. He's not going to be able to resist. You go get him. And I was like, yes, friendship. I genuinely enjoyed that moment.
Yeah,
Favorite character of the episode.
I straight up just didn't put anything down for this.
I did not. No, I didn't. Favorite character.
Molly and Melvin being a cute couple.
Co-signed.
Yes, started. This doesn't even really feature Emerald being like funny and pathetic, which is
Yeah.
the highlight of her character.
Yeah.
But real quick, Rose comment, standout moment, the series gets better after this episode.
That's fair.
So true. All right. So let's talk about what didn't work. Animation quality.
There are many times where Usagi's eyes have simply gone for a walk. They're just like drifting.
Sometimes one of them will just get.
Yeah, like they're like really far apart. Sometimes they're like it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah, I wrote the eyes are having some problems, and then I wrote Darian's chin is chinning. I think it's in the scene in their apartment confrontation about his dream, and at some one point you see him in profile, and his chin is like Jay Leno proportions.
Or says her eyes decided to see other people.
Exactly.
That just says rip Usagi's face in this episode. What the fuck? Why did they draw the monster like that? It feels racist. I have a bunch of notes about that later.
Yeah. It definitely feels low-key racist. Michi also just wrote eyes, just eyes.
Sorry, I've said it a few times.
Very disconcerted by the animations episode. Okay.
Yeah, it's just really upset us.
Complaints about plot structure.
Are we really doing evil friendship bracelets today? Yeah, we are. And then my follow-up note to that is that there's that romantic undertone in Japanese, which makes everything make marginally more sense.
Yeah, I wrote, this plot was all over the place. It was about love, friendship bracelets, but also about Serena discovering Darian's prophetic dream, but then also about them being broken up, but also making out, but also being broken up, but also whatever was going on with the droido and the rings and the ugly outfit.
What the fuck was this? Darian being a dick part infinity?
Okay. Characterization.
Oh, Ura asked us a good question. How do we feel
Ooh,
about
okay.
the deep name for this monster, Regalia? That's a cool name.
Yes, cool name.
That's a cool name.
It
Can't
sounds
complain
cool.
about that.
I don't have any complaints. Cool monster, cool name. And Sailor did tell us, what animation team is this?
This is the off-model
This
animation
might be the
team.
off-model animation team. Yeah.
All right, they're back.
All right. So, yeah, negatives about characterization.
So as usual in our 90s dub, the inners are like really fucking mean. Why are you guys so aggressive? I don't get it. I don't know why they made that choice. Like,
Yeah.
especially in like such a girl power show, I don't know why they made that choice. Like, this is weird. We're back to Darian being an uncommunicative wad. I hate that. Usagi has a line about changing herself for him, and I wrote, "Oh girl, don't ever change yourself for a man ever."
Yep.
And I truly hate every no one will communicate plot. I hate that tremendously. I don't know, I have a note that says this monster is racist, I think, with follow-up note that says he's in the portrayal as racist. She's not here saying slurs. The monster's ring themed attacks make a lot more sense when the thing is called a promise ring. Like just a bunch of ring jokes, which just don't land in the 90s cut because they didn't call them promise rings because that's a term for something else. I feel like they could have maybe stretched like friendship rings instead. The ring thing needs to be there, even though that's not really what an English speaking person thinks of as a ring.
Yeah.
And those are all my problems with the characterization in this.
Yeah, so I had a problem in that they kept implying that the droid had like 50 million badass powers. Like it would be like hatred rings, isolation rings, etc. But none of them like caused they didn't have different status effects or anything. They were just rings they were like throwing at them. Just energy ring attacks that did nothing else. That was strictly the localization. In Japanese, instead of them being like hatred ring, isolation ring, they're like one ring, 2-ring attack, 3-ring attack. The 5-ring attack, hilariously, is the Olympic rings, which was funny. But yeah, they're just different numbers of rings in the Japanese version. So it created some confusion for me of like, oh, if they get hit by the rings, will it cause them to feel hatred or isolation? No, it will not. Luna's still and forever an asshole to Serena. I don't remember what asshole thing she said in this episode, but doesn't surprise me.
And I said, Darian is and continues to be a moron.
Yep.
And I don't remember what, but you know what? All the episodes so far, back me up.
Yep. All right. So negatives about this episode's relevance to the ongoing story.
I had originally put a note that said basically none, but that's actually not true. There's like that little bit in the middle that is like super relevant, and you'd have to dig through a bunch of crap to get to the gem. I still would consider this an skippable episode. There isn't anything in that sequence that you couldn't get from a plot summary unless you really want to watch it, in particular being animated. The Japanese version is marginally less bad, but I say pass on this one.
I was going to say, what do we think of as a group? Are we recommending or passing?
It's relevant, but also skip it.
Skip it. So we're saying,
like there's some important plot beats in the last 2 episodes that once again, you don't actually have to watch it. You can just read a plot summary.
Yeah. Or now that you've watched our episode, you know what's important. Yep. Okay, so was it boring? And if so, why?
More of will he, won't he from Darian. And we hate this.
Yeah, I'm also really struggling to invest in the emotional plot of friendship bracelets are trendy and evil. This is a Jadeite level scheme. Unsurprisingly, the Japanese episode takes more care to put the evil friendship bracelet at the center.
I wrote, this was the most boring that this episode could possibly have been while still containing the stuff it contained, which is again a note that like they took a very relevant character or like emotional arc plot point and still managed to make an incredibly boring episode. What was the worst part?
The fact that none of it is interesting. Another average Michi bullet point.
I just said
The
man.
episode.
Did I really? I
The
did.
episode. You were
I
like
did
the whole
think.
thing. Fuck it.
I said the episode. I said
All right, so my note is they could have spent basically the entire episode focusing on the only relevant part, which was the dream reveal, but instead they wasted so much runtime on the bracelet plot, leaving this to be a classic Tamahome, Miyaka, Tamahome, Miyaka, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you, I love you episode, where characters just flip-flopped on a dime constantly.
Yeah, I was extraordinarily powerful out there, invoking Fushigi Yugi level melodrama.
yeah.
All right, so thing it could have done entirely without.
Oh man, I just don't think evil friendship bracelet is enough of a foundation for a plot.
How about we just get rid of the whole plot and the lack of making Emerald look good? The animation team is also so off.
Yep. So the thing I think it could have done entirely without in this episode is Rini. She had literally no contributions to this episode, so it was weird that they sometimes had her just be present for no reason. Genuinely, she just shouldn't have been in the episode and nothing would have changed. Okay, dear God, let's fix it. Okay, Michi, what would make it better?
Again, I should really go back and reread these after I've cooled off. But I said, if you're going to make it about evil friendship bracelets and commit, this ended up being more about Darian being a dick than bracelets. I'm so sick of Darian. Please come back into being the A storyline.
Yep. All right. Okay. So I had to, this was another one where I had to really sit with myself for a minute to figure out how I was going to fix it. So I think interesting that. Yeah, sure. I think interestingly that on paper, this seems like a very salvageable episode. Fundamentally, a strong Sailor Moon episode is going to be one where the evil subplot is going to have a thematic mirror to the emotional meta plot of the season. So in this episode, the main focus is back on the breakup status of Serena and Darian, and theoretically, you should be able to play love bracelets into that. And yet somehow, never the twain actually meet. Serena's prophetic dream just comes out of nowhere, and the bracelets never have any impact on that storyline at all. I think to save this episode, the evil bracelets would have needed to start eviling sooner, and their eviling would have needed to have some material impact on either Serena or Darian, something that would cause them to need to come together in some way to address the issue. If you set that up sooner and give Serena the prophetic dream way earlier in the episode, gives you a lot more time to let their communication really breathe here and for them to really actually debate on how to approach this and for us to see a scene of Serena actually explaining all of this to her friends and then them giving their insights. I said honestly this could have been combined really effectively with the Sleeping Beauty episode from earlier in the season where the evil plot actually did tie into the emotional arc of the characters. This one feels like it needs heavy fixing because right now the evil plot is just not doing fuck all. So this one feels like it just wasn't tied together in any meaningful way and should have been.
I saw the size of that paragraph and I was like, I'm just going to make you big and let you go off. I was like, there is no need for me. I can go away for a minute.
It's hard. This was such a hard one to fix because again, structurally it had the pieces it would need to tell a strong episode, and instead it told the weakest possible episode it could have, which was frustrating. Those were the episodes.
Those were the episodes.
I think we had a couple of strong ones at the beginning. Yeah, what do we got from comments from viewers out there?
Yeah, what do you all want to know? Let me see. Ura was saying Sailor Denzel, the backup team for animation.
It's so painful. The animation's so bad.
Yeah, and then Max is here.
He just jumped up onto I had to disappear for a second because my drink spilled. Completely human error. Max just jumped up on the desk so hard he almost made me spill my drink a second time.
Oh my God, Max.
Sir, come here. Get on. You're going to be here. Get on camera.
Yeah, come get on camera.
We love him.
Get cuddled and put on camera, idiot.
Yeah, we love him the most. He's
look at him.
I want to go climb under the desk. And I'm like, no, this is your punishment.
Oh, yeah, this is what you get. That's what you get.
Snuggle punishment.
Punished with cuddles from his favorite person.
Yeah, Did you get a chance to address Ura?
Yep. Okay, Relia. So make this droid inflict status effects in the Sailor Moon homebrew campaign. I absolutely would. If you're going to say that this is the isolation ring attack and this one's the hatred ring attack, there need to be impact of that. And you could have honestly, even though that was a thing that was only invented for the Pioneer dub, using something like that of having the ring attacks cause some sort of like emotional dysregulation would have been really useful to tie into the Serena and Darian dream plot, where again, one or the other of them would have to realize that the other one was in some sort of psychological distress and like really address that to fix it. Genuinely, that could have worked.
We forgot to rate the episodes.
Oh, whoops.
Oh yeah, we didn't do a star rating.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
real quick, episode
yeah.
66.
66 was Rubeus, UFO appears, the sailor soldiers are abducted.
Yes, I'm giving it 3.5.
Yeah, I will agree
Yeah,
with
3.5. Yeah. All right. Episode 67. Defeat Rubeus, the final battle in space.
I would give this one like maybe even a 4.
4. I almost lean 4.5.
I don't know if it's competing for some of my second favorite.
Oh, that's true. So it's
It's out
like
of 5, but it is a strong episode.
Yeah, I think I was really frustrated by the like lack of runtime for all that happened in this episode, but I would still be willing to give it a 3.5. So you're at
3.5.
4, I'm at 3.5. That puts us at like 3 3/4.
3 3/4.
Listen, you get 2 options. You either get 3.5 or you get 4-star.
Okay, then Michi, you have to break the tie. What would you
All right.
rate it?
I would rate it 4-star then. I think it's that
Okay, then
important
it's
of an
4.
episode.
Yep, that's fine. That's
No,
completely fine.
sorry. It's just because Canva only gives me something.
Yep. So
Alright.
now we have the difficulty, which is episode 68 is the Grim Man episode, but it's also the first appearance of Sailor Pluto. And this was not a good episode, but it was the first appearance of Sailor Pluto.
Oh, it was like a 1 though.
Like,
Oh.
but it was the first appearance of Sailor Pluto.
But like a 1 though.
I'll give it a
Oh, sorry.
I'll give it a 3.
Nance is no longer in my arms.
Oh, sorry,
You
I
don't
wasn't
have to
paying
do that
attention.
anymore.
I have somebody annoying me right here. So sorry, I was distracted.
I would give this one a 3.
Yeah, I think I would also give this one like a 3.
3? Is that where we're headed? Right. Because I was gonna give it more like a 1 too, but if we're gonna go, yeah,
Lady Chapel gives it a 2 just for Pluto.
Thank you. Okay, okay, I can agree. 2 for Pluto. How's that sound? And so by default, by group standard, it gets up to a 3.
Yep. Yeah, Ura also thinks 3.
All right. What do you mean 10 out of
Sailor
10?
Denzel. Pluto's intro, 10 out of 10, no notes. Rest of the episode gets a Grim Man out of 10.
I was gonna be like, Sailor Denzel, have you lost your mind?
No, just the Pluto bits, 10 out of 10.
3 out of 5.
Okay, now the cake and fat phobia episode.
One.
What's the least amount of stars that you can give an episode?
Let me
Is
see.
it 0 or is it 1?
Negative stars. Can I do negative stars? Is there a negative star? Is there a way to do negative? Is there any way to
It's
there-
1
okay,
point
then-
for being the 69th episode.
Yeah, all right, we'll give it a point for nice. We'll give it 1 star.
Oh, how about half a point?
Episode 69. Yeah, half a point's fine.
And the first 10 minutes are plot relevant.
It's true. The evil future guys. Yeah, 1 star for Esmeralda and for Saphir.
Oh, fine. Okay, 1 star. We'll accept 1 star for them. It's barely alive.
Yep.
And if it was an episode literally number 69, right?
Yep.
You know what would be smart? We should figure these out ahead of time.
I think we did that last time, and then we forgot to do that this time because we were working so hard on the rest of our new format that we forgot to rate them. We'll just add it to our template.
We're very hardworking people, I swear.
We are. And then finally, episode 70. Our feelings are the same. Usagi and Mamoru are in love once again. I will also give this one 1 star.
I will also give this one 1 star.
Yes. I think we can all agree. Chad agree. Oh, you give 3
Lady
out of
Chapel
5?
gives it 3 out of 5. If you're invested in the emotional plot with Serena and Darian, this is a very important episode, and I think she comes off really well in this episode. So I could see that from that perspective. For me, the rest of the ring plot just brings it down so much.
Yeah. No, but I think that was a lot of fun to rate the episodes.
Yeah, and I think rating them, it also helps us look back because again, we had such a strong overall rating last month. There really was a strong crop of episodes, and this feels more like a more typical crop of episodes. But yeah, and amazingly, I think with our new format, we're just about at the 3-hour mark on the dot. It seems
Awesome.
like we came up with the exact right amount of stuff to say.
Yeah.
Sound off in the chat and sound off in the comments below if you like the new format, if this was the kind of dive into the episodes that you maybe are interested in continuing to see. We really had a lot of fun putting together these kinds of notes and really digging into these episodes. So hopefully it pays off for you guys as well.
And I think it's fun because we all three have very different writing styles.
Oh, definitely. We react in different ways.
Like, you guys make me feel like I am way too hot-headed.
These are some of the most infuriating episodes, so like I can't disagree. And to be clear, it's not that I am not feeling like supreme annoyance at Chibiusa throughout these episodes. I am. I've always felt it. But I'm also just like, all right, if I try to put aside how much I want to punt her to the moon, what else should I say? Like,
Literally to the moon.
yeah, like obviously not every episode is going to be the episodes where Chibiusa is an annoying little shit, but we'll have different reactions in the future.
Looks like we got all positive from our chat.
Yay! Oh, good. Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are like enjoying or exploring the new format. So,
Yeah. And then any last comments, concerns? Talk about how amazing Emerald is.
I am loving her. I'm so loving her, especially
Sure.
because like rewatching Rubeus has only made me hate him more and more. Like I already hated him, but on the rewatch, I just was like, why isn't he dead yet? Why haven't we killed him yet? Like, let him be dead. And like Emerald showing up multiple episodes just to like rub his face in the dirt and then laugh at him while he died felt so good. I was like, girl, if you do nothing else, you're good with me from this point on.
I forgot to set me a clip and I'm trying to share it and it's being a pain. Oh no. Oh no. Why are you being like this, Restream? Why?
Oh, also, if you're enjoying my hoodie that I've been wearing today, I got this at Ross Dress for Less. They're pretty cheap because obviously it's at Ross, but it's like they're nice little Sailor Moon branded hoodies, very comfortable, very cheap, very cute. And you should go to your local Ross and see if they have any.
Oh yeah, I think I saw Chiba Wolf talking about that. Right?
Yes, I had seen it, and then I was in a Ross later on, and I was like, I'm gonna see if they have those Sailor Moon hoodies that someone else saw in Ross, and they did, so I bought myself one.
Oh man, I feel
It's
dumb
cute.
now.
I like all the like magic items down the one sleeve, and then big
Oh,
old
that's really
Sailor
cool.
Moon logo on the other. Yeah, it's just a nice hoodie, designed, good colors. We do need an episode of just Emerald. I so agree, Lady Temple Cosplay. She is everything.
Yay, somebody did.
Yeah, your hoodie reminded me of the fat phobia of the fashion industry when y'all were talking about the cake shop. Yeah, like fashion is another place where fat phobia is just aggressively rampant. And like unfortunately, fat phobia is still everywhere. It's one of those things that's still largely socially treated as acceptable.
Oh, sorry.
It's very frustrating. Ooh, Emerald's laughed. Go off, Ojo-sama.
I
Like,
love her.
I wholeheartedly believe Emerald is a character who would do a boobs and butt pose for the camera.
Just for the camera.
Absolutely. Yes, girl.
Sorry, I couldn't get your clip to work, or I hope that worked.
Yeah, or yeah, you're so right. It will never be available in a men's size 4X. Yeah, unfortunately, the size offerings for this kind of merchandise are always like small through large. Have fun.
Yep, and if you don't fit, that's what they treat us like.
Yeah, the 90s was toxic to women in general. So agree.
But this was fun. Shall we end it?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
And with that, we come to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us for Bishoujo Senshi Slumber Party, episode 66 through 70 discussion.
And as always, our fellow Moonies, check us out on all our socials and follow us to find out the next time we're going live. You can find our links in the link tree in our description. And don't forget to tune into Eternal Mooncast on Saturday, April 5th. Hey, that's the day after my birthday. For Sailor Moon merchandise through the ages with returning special guest, Sailor Tortilla. I've been your co-host, Monica, and if you want to know what I'm up to and interested in, feel free to follow me. That's Eternal Mooncast, but feel free to follow me.
No, sorry. I am like
And that's fine. They can watch Eternal Mooncast. I was just talking about it. You can follow me. There's my info. At Gay Wizard Emporium on Tumblr. Yeah, I'm still using Tumblr. Up to date with the progress of the novel I'm writing, which I promise Sailor Moon will love, as well as see whatever else I'm enjoying at the moment. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at Dice-Wizard.
Yeah. All right. I've been your co-host, Relia. If you like what I do and you want to follow me on social media, you can find my most active socials popping up on the screen below. If you want to follow my cosplay adventures, you can find me on Instagram at Relia Lacadaemon. Or if you want to follow my artwork, I'm on Tumblr at Art Crystals and on Blue Sky as Relia. Thanks as always for supporting the show, and join us for our next Slumber Party, which will be on April 19th.
And as always, I have been your host, Michi. You can find my personal socials at MEW21 across the web. And for now, Mai and Monica has joined the voyage along with Julia. We go for K-pop reactions at K-pop Voyage. Make sure to check out that YouTube channel. And for our parent show, Eternal Mooncast, you can find previously recorded episodes on our YouTube. This episode will be coming out not this Monday, but the Monday after at 7 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate any likes, comments, follows, or however you'd like to support our show in your own way. As a quick reminder, these are just our personal opinions, and we celebrate all respectful Mooney opinions here. And, oh yeah, next episode is going to be on Ray's birthday.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
I didn't realize that. I didn't remember that Ray and I were birthday buddies.
Oh yeah, that's true. And and that'll be your birthday episode next, Monica.
Yeah.
Literally, unfortunately, my closest birthday buddy, I believe, is Mamoru.
Oh no. Yeah, because double check you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have to double check. Because I was like, we have to have a birthday episode for you too.
Yeah, August.
Yep. Okay, we'll take a break that way. All right. So, all right, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out.